is 100 Thieves, Vaxlon joining that roster.
I am
Gilderson's on Liquid. I think that
chilling.
could quietly be the
And we're gonna
most
watch.
significant roster change. I mean, Gilderson's one of those
We're gonna
underrated
watch
players from Split 1 controller, even from
NA
the previous
while I'm
squad.
chilling under my blanket, trying
Excited
not
to
to
see
fall
what he
asleep.
can do. I think he's going to be a phenomenal standout
What's up,
player.
baby?
So those are, of course, just two of many of the overall roster changes. A lot of changes coming through. But here's one thing I am excited to share, and it is that
Good morning,
multi-view
good evening,
is officially
good day.
making a return. We heard your feedback loud and clear that you loved multi-view throughout the entirety of
To everyone. How you guys doing? Good morning, good evening, good day. What's up, work? Cozy 5 a.m. Are you guys not sleeping? Did you guys just wake up or are you just still awake? Still awake, yeah. I could have guessed that one.
Shut the fuck
Suwa
up!
gifting Kami.
Jamie just
Thank you, appreciate you.
resubscribed for 20 months. This is Sue were gifted a tier 1 sub to X Kami. They have given 12 gift subs in the channel.
Yeah, it starts so late for us, NA, but it's the only region I can really catch, because the other ones like APAC starts at 4 a.m. my time, so the only region I can catch is the NA one. So might as well stream this one. Yeah.
Shut the fuck
Luffy,
up!
5 months, welcome back. Appreciate you.
Lufi's just resubscribed for 5 months.
What the fuck are you saying, that built? I don't know what even language that is. But speak English or Japanese or don't speak. What time is it? It's 11 p.m. You can see right here. NRG. Speaking Malay. Well, I can't understand Malay. Send. I mean, no teams are. I mean, they don't have to stream because there's command center and we can watch their POVs. Hey, Bob. Oh, yeah, Pan. Yeah, hello, no, Mr. Superman. Thank you, welcome back.
No Muso underscore just resubscribed for 4 months. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hello. Let's listen to music.
Shut the fuck up!
Thank you so much, Psycho, for 10 gifted subs. Good day, good evening, good morning. How are you? So what rank are you? I'm like Masters. I'm not even Pred yet. Thank you so much, Psycho, for the 10 gifts. I appreciate you so much. It starts at 6 a.m. for Europe. Yeah, Chopkey. I'm not awake at 6 a.m. I wake up at 10 a.m. usually. By the time I wake up, the Apex South is over. Or close to being over. Hey, Earl Grey. Watch the VOD. I mean, yeah, I can watch the VOD always, but that's not fun for stream for us to watch VOD. I just do that in my own time. Sleeping stream. Depends how long this tournament lasts, yeah. ABC really. 4 cryptos. I'm excited to see how they play Stormpoint. What's up, Yannick? Chill stream in the morning. For me, it's very late, but yeah. Just waiting for them to start. Today I'm cheering for NRG. What song is this? It's called K from Cigarettes After Sex. I'm good, sleepy boy. How are you? Hey Mugetsu. What's up, Seba? Oh, we're starting. We're starting Stormpoint?
I've had a chance to cast a couple community tournaments with Stormpoint, but of course never an ALGS competition where the stakes are going to be super high. Teams wanting to perform, teams wanting to show that they are starting strong and are the best here. So Mark, map number 1, talk me through Stormpoint and some of the drop spots. What can we expect?
Let's go!
First of all, don't be worried if you're watching ALGS and you've only watched ALGS and you're thinking, where is the pilot taking us? This is not the usual view out the windows that we're used to seeing. What is this thing that's happening below us? Of course, it's Stormpoint. I think when you're talking about drop spots and stuff,
let's go. We're starting with Big Booty Gamers. I mean, Built by Gamers. Good morning, Ed.
Newly picked up, I will say, by Built by Gamers. They're going to be dropping in the middle of the map at the moment, just outside of the Jurassic area. So there's a lot to be talked about here. Essentially, let's break it down to the most basic, right? For some of our viewers who may not have seen a lot of Stormpoint. Stormpoint, essentially, from north to south, is kind of a big hill. The northern side is right up on height, and then down on the southern side,
Big Booty Gamers are here.
Deltas where all the rivers kind of flow down to. It's a good example of it right here on our screen. Synced is going to be kind of working.
Prowlers don't no longer attack for no reason,
It's
so I
going to be
think
an
it's fine.
interesting battle of elevation in a lot of our end
Thank you
games.
guys for the
A lot of the rotations
level
are going to be
3
based around elevation. So
scam
you
train or
see
level
changes
2
in
scam
composition.
train.
I think we're going to
Appreciate
see
you
a
guys.
lot more Ash being able to portal from point A to point B from downloads up high. You might see a little
What is
bit of
NRG's
Horizon
POI?
being thrown
I don't
in there
even
as well.
know.
It's certainly going to make for a little bit of experimentation with comps, lineups, and how teams want to rotate. Plus, as well, it's new still to all of these players
Checkpoint?
in competitive. Yes, they've had scrims.
Oh, yeah,
Scrims
look at
are
it.
one thing, John. And
Oh,
as
we got
know on
names,
others,
baby.
when you get
Is
to
this
a
new?
tournament setting, people play a little bit differently.
Yeah, that is spot on. You take a look at the overhead map here. It'll show you where all the other teams are dropping. Obviously, NRG dropping in Checkpoint. The Mill, my personal favorite.
Looks
drop
new.
spot. You see
Yeah,
on
it looks very
position.
new.
Obviously, might have some contest there. You got to be a little careful. It might be an initial fight. And then we have teams dropping on top of each other. Look at W along towards the center
Nice.
of the map here. RCO looking
So-
like they're in a little bit of a contest. Will they split that 50-50? Will they?
I can't even read the names of the people who are lending Mill.
Crazy happening just yet. But that's one of the interesting things about Pro League as well.
C9's got like a whole piece of the map for themselves. They're chilling.
Versus C, A versus D. You're going to see teams maybe have to change their drop spot. Obviously, the NRGs, the TSMs of the world will not have to, but some of the lesser-known teams are going to have
What's
to
up, Kawhi?
be versatile as we see
Doing
a
good, how are
fight
you?
here with RCO.
Yeah, a little bit of a tickle fight going on here.
Little
between
tickle
a couple of
fight?
teams actually dropping over here at Barometer. So a few shots are going to be
Nordic?
exchanged, but nothing too kind of devastating. Excuse me, it's over antennae at the moment.
What's up,
You're going to have
Dexter?
to give me a few seconds to adjust my bearings as well. Trust me, it's going to take us a while to remember exactly where we are at different points on the map with World's Edge being so heavily ingrained into our brains. But LMK, not a great start for them. Dimmy's having to back down. Bubble goes down.
Dimmy was going crazy last LGS. I watched him.
LMK featuring players.
His
They've been here
win was
before.
crazy.
They played in the ALGS competition.
Shut
maybe not
the
the
fuck
pro
up.
Francesca,
league,
5
so
months.
Francesca just
Welcome back.
resubscribed for 5 months. Almost
Almost
half a year
year.
later.
That's crazy.
I'm
Thank you
excited
so
to see
much.
What Dimmy and of course Turns, who's been here many times before,
Yeah,
as
hello.
well can do. Turns used to be on the Pittsburgh Knights way back when with Hodzik and Six back in our preseason qualifier. On board now with RC.
Namusa, what's up?
And switching on over to NAND 203. Looting up looks like a little bit of early poke in Antenna, but no team's going to necessarily go all in. Just goes to show maybe the nerves here are
Shut
ready.
the fuck up!
First map.
Nordic Samurai,
I mean,
thank you for continuing.
Excuse
The
me
sub
being a little bit
from
English here,
Caboose,
but that is
appreciate you.
officially Nando's from
Old
now on.
helmet,
That is
that's pretty lucky, yeah.
I don't know if that's not your name. If it isn't,
like
I'm
that.
sorry. Okay, but you're Nando's
Is the
in my
is
head
the
forever.
audio
But
too
this is,
loud,
one
chat?
thing
Should
that
I
was
lower it?
maybe expecting to see a little bit. I talked about how, you know, there's a lot of teams in the Pro League. There's 40 teams overall, and there's not 40 drop spots
All
across
good.
the map. And this
Okay.
little bit of contesting is something we're going to see a lot
It's
of
fine, okay.
from teams, I think, in the first couple of weeks. I know
Audio
there's been a lot of
perfect?
stuff
Okay,
on
roger that.
Twitter between Fury and G2. I think Tech's been keeping the score, and I think that
Roger
G2
that.
are down by 1 at the moment. Fury actually have the advantage over them, dropping over at Lightning Rod and towards Thunderwatch. So those things are going to progress, but when you, like I mentioned, when you get into the competitive lobbies, into these big moments, then I think teams are going to kind of
screaming in my
you know,
headset,
put the
don't
ego
worry,
to
there's
one
gonna
side,
be
especially with knowing
zero
how one
screaming
game
going on here.
across all of the week can have such an impact.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For me, it's a cozy,
Rookie team here. Banshee, Elizura, and Jared.
cozy
Welcome to
night.
the Legends Global Series. We have
Cock.
never
What are you
seen
guys
any of these
typing
players
cock
compete
for?
in an ALGS competition. I don't believe an online broadcast or a finals competition in the past. So those are true rookies.
Is that a
to see.
emote?
Excited to see what this squad can do. Is get this Antenna fight. A lot of long
That
range
is
poke.
an
I
emote.
don't think you're going to see these teams take this fight. I think you're going to see them play a little bit more passive. We know RCO is able to get some insight
What's up,
into where the
TJ?
next zone is going to be, so they're content just leaving.
Why
with this loop
people
and
pussy?
rotating.
What is
Looks like
that?
they're actually going to spot one team out nearby, and they might take this fight. They got to be a little cautious.
Oh, it's a
because
cat.
I believe W and Built by Gamers potentially might be dropping.
Is storing
right
this
over
match?
where
I'm not
100%
sure. I'd
calls
have
are.
to
don't
see,
know if
but I
I'll
don't
be
think they
controlling
are.
it.
I think they play tomorrow.
100% it is Jurassic Park.
We're committing to
When they
Jurassic
usually
Park.
sleep
Call it.
around 2
Fantastic.
a.m.
I don't know
1
if you need
2
to be, like,
a.m.
licensing issues. Please stop doing that. But nonetheless, there's a couple teams that drop just across the cages there. They got to be really, really careful where those prowlers drop.
Oh, 100%. I think that fight might be a little bit more extended than we would expect between those two teams, just because of the fact we did see the zone and it is fairly central, so nobody really has to overly commit to anything at the moment. One thing to note as well about Stormpoint in general, from what we've seen and what we've been watching in scrims, Circle's a little bit more
When does EU start?
predictable
EU
than
is
what we
not
see over
playing.
on World's
EU,
End. So when you
EU
get that initial
LGS
information,
is
especially if you
postponed
get a
until
beacon, you
further
really can
notice.
get a good gauge of
We
where
don't
the
know when
end
we're
game
playing.
will be. So you're going to see a lot more teams, I think, stacked up towards the end game, trying to play for those god spots. But still, as you can see, RCO still in this battle, still doing a little bit of poke damage and not getting a huge amount of damage done either. You can see that Sleepy Panda, unfortunately, is kind of got a night sheet on at the moment, let alone an Evo shield, as he's only got a few kind of
we'll see.
HP left on
Currently
that white
can't
armor,
play
but
because of Russia and
they're gonna do a little bit
Ukraine.
of looting right now, a little
Ukraine
bit of crafting,
situation.
and one thing to note as well, crafting rotations have changed, and one thing that is in there, that's a flatline, and that's going to be one of those guns that can still do a heck of a lot of damage.
Spot on. You saw ESA in
You guys
the
wanna
distance.
spectate a team?
Mill kind of making their
Like,
rotation. So
you wanna
be very
spectate a
careful
certain
because you're
team?
gonna be rotating through
Or you
Antenna.
wanna
Tends
watch
to
the
be
main
one of those
broadcast?
spots that teams early rotate towards, and there's a lot of action kind of similar to a fragment of World's Edge, where there ends up being kind of obviously a lot of fights early on, but then a lot of fights in kind of
Guys wanna watch the energy?
tier 2, tier 3 level or phase of gameplay. As we switch on over here, it looks like Ganja, Scary Squad find themselves in a fairly...
Let's see. Let's remove these guys. Let's add energy and Cloud9. And is there G2 here? G2. No, that's Ghost. Holy shit. No G2. Okay, I don't care then. Fuck what I clicked. Wait, energy is dead? No, wait, what the fuck is this?
Late night stream.
This is not even energy. Hemard is 1,000 bits. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're doing a little late night. Who is this? Okay, this team is OXG. So, is this energy then? No, this is Ghost.
There shouldn't be a speaking Fury.
And this is also Ghost. What?
Nothing you can do about it.
I mean, I hope he's able to fix his PC. Free shield on the City of Time.
Copy.
I don't understand. What am I doing wrong, chat?
Right now. Give it to me if you want.
Are you not a 1x2 user?
I mean, Ironside Havoc is pretty much the same thing.
Bruh.
Yeah.
I'm on the bow. I can't put my two.
Ah, this is so laggy too. What's Cloud9 doing?
We have to worry about a team mirroring.
Oh, they have to worry about something.
That shit happens, but it is doable and hard.
Ah, this is such terrible quality though. Yeah, we're not watching that shit. Holy fuck.
Positions, but that's why Crook is on Ash. That ability, if damage is done, to capitalize on it almost immediately becomes a necessity here, and I'm expecting to see more and more of it as Stormpoint evolves.
Yeah, that's a great point. Mark, talk me through, actually, don't talk me through anything because we got to fight. Optimal Ambition versus the Atlanta Premier. Atlanta Premier, welcome. With
Yeah,
your
we
new
good.
Team,
We watch it
name
mention.
change here. Premier GG
Yeah, it's first game,
quietly
Raphael.
placed 7th in Split 1 playoffs. Really well performing. They pick up a
Atlanta
Seraph from
Premier, they
Pittsburgh
kill
Knights, who's
someone.
a phenomenal player. I'm excited
Nades.
to see this
They
squad
killed
getting the
nades and
first
finished
kill,
them.
or sorry, second kill now of Pro League Split
Who do you think
2.
wins this one?
That's going to be over Optimal Ambition.
I don't know. It's a
Looks like
new
the rest of the
map.
Ambition will survive for now. So things slow down. I'll re-ask the same question. Mark, talk me through why Ash is really important. Why you think we'll see a little bit more of Ash in Stormpoint
It's a new
versus World's
map.
Edge, as you started to allude to it.
I mean, if you think about it from a map top-down perspective, right, World's Edge is not a huge amount of changes in verticality. Usually when you're talking about rotation, you're talking from point A to B, kind of along the ground, right? if you understand what I mean, the kind of the footpath, so to speak. But due to just the geometry and the way that this map is built, with it being essentially, at its most basic, a big hill from north to south, you need to be able to take verticality almost immediately. If you have Ash, you have that ability with the portal to do so.
Oh, actually have one to see. It looks like it, yeah.
We also see another
Oh,
fight going
CLG
down.
wipe
It's going to be CLG.
Curry.
They've got a lot to prove this season. I do want to say they've made a few changes to the lineup
Scree?
once again, but they're going to pick up the first full squad elimination of our first game back. And
up,
as we
Rish?
get a look at our first squad elimination, we also get to see a little bit of info about where that circle is going. Stormcatcher looks like it might be the only POI left, and we're going to probably pull right in, like I mentioned, towards the outer edge of that.
Mamba, welcome to CLG. That's a nice win over Scary.
Who's that circle? I don't know.
This one, meanwhile, Furia. We said we wanted to watch this team. Panders.
Furia versus who?
Making his debut onto the Furia roster. Tech's going to go down.
no.
So Panders has to go big. The controller player last alive. Horizon. Zeratrick, he's going to get some good damage, but he finally gets knocked as well. The damage is coming
Oh,
through.
they
It's
lost
gonna be
that hard.
Scissors and Phony W taking out Furia unless
They lost
Panders
that
can do
pretty
something
hard.
miraculous here. Now left in a 1v3.
Third party.
He's left on his own, and we said how he needs to do something ridiculous. Here comes C9 now to try
Is
and have a little
Horizon
bit of
meta
a
on
piece of the
Stormpoint?
pie, so to speak. Albrelli and Zach Mays are using that Horizon Q to get up on height. Also going to have to take their time here just to avoid the defensive bombardment, but you're starting to see the action pick up a little bit here.
What
as
is
the door
going
starts
on?
to close
How is
with
Panders
19
alive?
squads still remaining here, John. Pandas has survived, but for how long?
Wait, and
Just
one of
as
his
fast
teammates
as
is still alive. He
Cloud9
can
enters,
res him.
Cloud9 exits. They are so quick, probably the quickest team to take a third
And
party,
this
but
team
right now
died.
It's going to be Phony and Scissors
What
who
is
started
happening?
the action, getting taken out by the casuals here. It's Ziffer, Akuma Rapes, and Casual FPS, also a challenger
Would have been-
circuit team
was a high
from
ground.
last
Wouldn't
season,
Ash be
making their
better, though?
debut in the Pro League with a huge pickup over W. Now down to
In my
18
opinion.
squads remaining. A lot of action picking up in the mid game here.
Certainly is, and casual as well. Welcome to professional, because that is the way to start the game, right? 18 squads remaining now as they eliminate our second team from the lobby. The zone closing behind them, but they will be safe for quite some time. As you can see, not only they're close to that next zone, but pretty much close to the beacon information they have as well, of where the zone will be going after that. So not only an important win for kill points and things like that, but also important in the fact that they've cleared their backs now, John. Nobody's going to be able to rotate behind them. Built by gamers, though, you can see that they're bang in the center of the the second circle at the moment, and Wicked's going to be doing his best impression of Robin Hood with a bow check in
I
hand, but
didn't sub
only
us,
5
no.
arrows to work with here. I don't think he's going to be able to do too much damage.
But they play
Also note,
Horizon of
Akuma
both
on
maps now,
casual is
really?
Actually, one of our few, actually one of our 4 in this
That's
lobby
interesting.
Mexican players representing Mexico and Latin America on this squad, playing with 2 American players. So we'll see what the casuals can do in their first map. That's a good start.
I don't think Horizon's that good.
Teams
Her
over
ult is
Swordcatcher.
useless.
It's going to be BBG positioned just
Map streaming
east.
considers decent
100
quality. Okay.
Thieves just chilling in Stormcatcher right now in the main POI. They'll be actually occupying the majority of that POI, but 4 or 5 teams in the vicinity. We know Cloud9 is near. We know these teams have to be really
I
careful.
think Horizon's
It's
ult is pretty
on
useless.
the problem.
Yeah, 100 Thieves are going to be
Like
one of
if
those
you-
quick rotating teams.
If you
as
have
well.
any
We've seen
brain
traditionally that's
cells,
what
you're gonna
worked
break
for
it
them,
before it
and
even
you're gonna be able to
sucks
get a lot
anything,
of
you know?
information from where 100 Thieves set up and where that
But they
circle
have a
will be
Moby,
ending.
they
But
can
look at this,
actually
Fury
res.
managed to get tech back into the game. Unfortunately, Zeratricky might take a little bit more time, but there's also a mobile beacon down for them. So Furia, who looked like they were
I think it's Ash and
in
EU.
all sorts
at
of
least.
trouble. Have gone from rags to riches at the moment.
Shiva, thank you for getting the rich tier one.
Reese
But you
just
see that they're gonna come under
resubscribed for
pressure. The
20
question
months.
is there
They
enough
got the
This is
solutions
reason.
there
I'm
to help
surprised
them
that
help
they're
them
not
find
getting
out
hard
this
pushed
They have
here.
given
Yeah, that's
13
really,
gift
really
subs
big.
in the
They're getting their
channel.
full squad back in. The fact that Panthers was able to survive the Wraith of the Cloud9 squad playing so incredibly aggressive. No, not Wraith, the legend.
And they have better spot. Why is that casual team not pushing? Ah, because C9's around. They're afraid of third party.
They know that Zeratriki just got revived, doesn't have loot, doesn't have much.
Why is
shield
Zach
yet,
just
obviously has some loot
like
boxes to
just
work
being
with.
a little rat
With
here?
4 teams in the vicinity, don't expect any of these teams to initiate a fight, because if it does, it likely means death for you, as you'll get third party soon after.
Fury are looking to make a little bit of a move, and it looks like they want to be a little bit aggressive, and they're going to do so not actually just to be aggressive
Swap
on
the
top
armor,
players,
Zera.
but to get Zeratriki some goods to work with. Because if you don't
Is
get
there
that
no
goods to work
armor
with,
in
you're not
there?
gonna be able
Why
to
is
do
he
a
in
lot of
white?
damage, and you're kind of jumping in the backpack, so to speak, of your teammates, hoping they can get you towards the end game and maybe find some on the way. But at least he's got a Mastiff to play with, and to be honest with you, I was going to say, at least he's got to play with. He's got a fully decked out R301 and a purple bolted Mastiff. That's the kind of loot box you want to find if you're a player dropping back into the game.
Energy just landed on their
Look at this, though,
nose.
NRG, it's almost like they smelled red in the water. They're gonna
That's
find the
really
Furia squad,
bad.
take this
Rocker's already dead
3v3, and it's gonna be
instantly.
Panthers that gets the first knock on Rocker. That's huge.
Oh
That gives
no,
Zeratriki
what was that from
an
energy?
opportunity to either
That
level
was a
up his Evo
blind
shield or
Valkyrie.
shield swap if they can get that finish on Rocker. Now the rest of NRG gonna be just sitting on the rooftop with Cloud9 and Casuals nearby. They have to be so careful. They're down to a 2v3. Rocker gets taken out. That's massive.
I mean, there's about 3 or 4
Nathan's
teams in
gonna
the
go
vicinity
down.
here. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure what NRG's decision-making was there. I talked about how the decision-making is usually exemplary. They make so few mistakes, but surely coming down from the height there, the Valkyrie passive would have given them the information. There were
What was
multiple
that?
teams in the vicinity. Sweet, unfortunately, now is going to be left on his own on top of this building, and with just a
Why?
car and a 301 in his hands, it's going to be a very difficult job for him. But as we mentioned, if there's anyone in the world,
He should have
probably
stayed
wants
on
to
the
try and
roof.
survive these
Now he's
situations,
dead.
is Sweet, but
They're
just
fully
at
dead.
the bottom of your screen, you see him taken out, and NRG, I'm sorry, I've cursed you already with the predictions. They are out inside our top 3.
The safe pick, he
Damn.
said. The pick of
That
the
was
team
not a
runs
good
on fully
Valkyrie.
squadded- a nearly fully kitted Furia squad. But obviously we
Well,
can see that from
it
NRG's
could have been
perspective,
good if they
because were
stayed on the
really
roof
bad
of the
spot.
building.
Link
I
to
think they
rotate,
could
had
have
to just be
played the
gamble.
roof of
That's
the
really what
building,
it
but
is. It's a bit of a
definitely
gamble.
not
It's
like
right there.
land
So NRG ends up getting
on
taken
the
into
balcony
now. You can
where
see
3
that
people
go
can
what
well,
went
not
wrong,
3,
but
like
certainly not
9
the right
people were
decision
shooting at them.
overall, as Demi's actually going to knock Jaren at the top of your screen, and it looks like there's going to be 3
If they landed on the roof or bottom floor, they had a chance, but they landed right on a team.
Zach Mays is doing here.
Rocker
C9
missed
as
the
well. You
roof,
can see he's
yikes.
just constantly trying to put pressure onto Fury and the other team that's inside of
I didn't
this
see
building.
exactly what
Any kind
happened,
of battle that breaks out
but
between them, Zach
that
Mays
was
is gonna
very
be in
risky
position
from them.
third, just to pick up maybe a couple of kills from the downs, just to be a nuisance. And
Cloud9.
he's also playing within enough range of his teammates that if he does get
Well,
taken
the
down,
thing
and
with
no shields, he's got
Cloud9
an
now
escape
is
plan,
that
and he
they
can
have
play
like
back with
the
his
best
team.
spot in
C9's
the zone,
positioning
don't
is
they?
really, really
They have
solid
the
now, as we
little
do see
the
that
little
circle potentially
ball,
pulling away from them a little
little
bit.
dome.
C9,
Unless
they could
Zach
be
fucking
looking
decides
to,
to
to
die
be
here, they
predators,
should be
so to
fine.
speak, on the edge of this zone, and Zach Mays is using that Q to try and get all of the information that he can for his team.
And I gotta say, I love how Cloud9's playing this, right? They're hugging the edge of the ring. They love to play edge in general. That's kind of
If
their
he
play
missed the
style.
roof, that's really
But
unfortunate
also
for them.
just keeping their head in a swivel and seeing, is there an opportunity to take this fight? We know these 2 teams are to our right, and there's
Yeah, and look at the
slowly
next
eating their
zone,
way
chat.
in, occupying
Wait,
so
is that
much real
new?
estate is
We can
Cloud9.
see the
I'd love
next
other plans. I'd
zone
love to jump right in
on
to
the main
listen in.
stream.
Cloud9 is
Shut
like a
the
team
fuck
player.
up.
Listen.
Jay, thank you for
If
the
they
pound.
control
Welcome.
our right side, we get pinched, so we need to control out here and
you
inside
stay
the egg.
there. Yeah, you stay
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and I'm gonna help Nutty then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
works.
That's
They're
cool.
anyway,
But
right
that's
now-
also bad. They could be.
No, kind of. No, one team's just on roof.
Will they be stream time? Nice
One
10
team
minute
moved from the corner
delay. Probably not.
Remember Valcolts, guys. We could always lose our thing if we're too split.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking of. That's why I'm asking for much.
If we see a Valkyrie, we just group on
There's a
egg.
10-minute
Valkyrie
delay
coming
to it,
from the west.
guys.
Right now, they just left shouldn't. They're flying
They shouldn't
towards
be
us.
able to see.
They might land egg. They might land egg.
Yeah, Nutty, land on
If
top.
you look at 10
They're
minutes,
good,
you're already
they're
3
good,
zones
they're right
ahead.
there.
You know.
They're in death
Nutty.
corner.
You're doing great right now, buddy.
I know. Oh, trust me. I know.
Yeah. We just have to hold this
I
fucking
know
dome,
exactly
bro.
what to
'cause
do right now.
I feel like your team is gonna slam this and try to hold it with us. You know what I mean?
He said, "You're doing
Yeah,
great right
it's
now,
not-
buddy."
It's not split holdable. Unless
Yeah,
they play
I know.
bottom floor and we play top.
But we're not gonna do that. We're Horizon, and I have 3 arcs and a thermite.
Man.
Yeah. I have a frag and a thermite.
Nutty, keep looking down the hill.
You're
'cause
doing
they're
great
gonna-
right now, buddy.
I know. I'm already pinging where they have to play. I already know where they're gonna be at.
Zach, if a fight breaks out over here, should I give you ult it to push
Yeah,
them
we're
away?
doing a listening to
Still or what?
Cloud9.
Yes, if a fight breaks out there, no, Mac, I am running at that. And you will just support me with your
No,
turret
you don't.
rifle.
You don't even need to run at it. You can
These
shoot
guys
them
have
from the
so
balcony.
much space, by the way.
They'll have
this
no
team.
cover from you.
They're super
They don't-
safe.
People going down here.
Yes. Yes. Very
They
easy.
move
Mac,
here.
they're hard fighting? Or no?
No.
Steffi, probably like by the time you can
70
see
on two
second
of
zone,
them,
you
purple.
already in like ring 4. It doesn't really matter at that point.
They're moving. They're in the corner here. They're gonna Valco, I think.
There's no way they
They have no
Valcoed.
dome, Zach. They're at the rock here.
Where the fuck are they gonna go with the Valcode?
They're getting walked up on. Shoot the horizon, shoot the horizon.
I'm getting on our thing.
I got a knock.
Ooh, nice
I got a
knock.
knock on that guy.
Are we
I got
getting
stun. I have to
Valkyries
sell.
on?
I'm looking up.
I don't see
yeah,
one.
Yeah,
On
Open
me,
us.
on me. I might be
I'll
doing
give
your
you.
Mac.
Get inside. Get inside. Go.
I'm inside.
Hold the door. They're gonna come in, I
I'm
think.
hitting them.
I know.
Nades.
We need to kill
They
them.
need to push that Gibby right now.
Come to me.
Okay, I'm here.
Or the roof,
Our
yeah.
building.
They're not on
Back
roof. Roof is
That
clear.
ult is like they're gonna break that ult, right?
Mac went in. Stay roof. Come back to roof, Mac.
Fine.
We're gonna get 30 from our left. We're gonna
Just stay alive right now. Don't fight anyone.
I have
Yeah.
to sell.
Just chill a little bit.
There's a rat right here. They don't fall on the right.
Take some control.
You gotta watch this. This is really bad from there.
They shouldn't be on the. It's really bad that they're on the roof.
We're chilling for zone. Look at zone. We need to
Because
find a
the
place to
roof
stay alive.
What the
can
fuck?
be seen from the
Stay
roof.
on the roof, Naughty.
I'm up. I'm good. This team's gonna start to shit on us.
Put safe on me.
I'm good,
Temporarily
Max.
safe on me.
Mac, just hold it. I don't. Who cares right now? It's fine.
It's
Can
not
I-
around here.
Can I hold red mark or no?
He's playing very close. I don't think you can.
No.
Very
Kill
close.
Gibby.
He's on it. No, you can't.
Dude, we have like.
Max, you have to focus.
Right.
Wallhawk on you. Yeah, but it's 10-minute delay. I don't think
Yeah.
it's like
Naughty, you need to make sure that
like
you
even
need
if
to
you
hold
had
our
the
back.
mainstream
You need to hold our
open
back when Naughty-
as a
me and
player,
Naughty
you
are
don't
shit
really
like
get
I
any
have
of that
a
info
quick
because
fire,
it's so
bro.
much delay.
You have to make for the
So
team on
just
the
waiting
inside.
to
Naughty
3P.
doesn't peek me and Mac.
I know.
I don't have any bats left. I'm popping
I
in
do.
the
A lot right here.
balcony. We can't play
I
that
can't
rock
see
side.
that guy. I can't see that.
We have
I'm
to play
dropping
right
one
here.
guy
This
here.
team
I
has a
only
really
have
good
two.
heady
If
right
it was
there.
new, I think that's a little bit
We have to play our
from a
cooldowns
couple
really good,
OGs
like our
ago.
dome. We have to hold our dome and our horizon.
That was a long
remarkable
listening.
Listen in there, Mark. I mean, just the amount of multi-threaded conversations they're having, how much they have to think about and track at once. Are they getting Valk ulted? What's this going on with this fight to our right? There's a team creeping up on our left. In some way, somehow, Cloud9 survives through all of it, and not only survives, but is kind of sitting somewhat well. Obviously, in a tough spot right now. We'll see how they play it.
Yeah, they're playing incredibly well, and shout out to Little League coach Zach Mazer saying Naughty, you're doing a great job, pal. Little pat on the back for his controller player, saying you're doing a great job of controlling so much of the map for us while we try and work away from you and keep the space. But now C9, you can see they've got ESA inside of this building, CLG on the outside, you got RCO.
No way, another
also
team.
surrounding them,
Oh,
and
it's
then you
in
have
Central.
100 Thieves joining the party down from the heavens.
It's in
This is
Central,
going to be
holy shit.
carnage, and this egg might crack for one of these teams pretty soon.
Oh, it's going to have to, right? There's 5 teams within the vicinity of this egg. I don't know how none of them have gotten taken out or knocked yet. RCO is going to actually find a knock on Crook of Atlanta Premier. That's going to open things up just a bit. Cloud9 is literally hugging the edge of the ring right now, somehow still alive.
What is
CLG doing
going
the
on?
same. This is the team that he said was in death corner here.
What is happening on
CLG
this
is
roof?
alive.
Yeah,
Zach
kill him.
Mazer needs to get his health
Get
back
his
quick.
ass.
In some way, somehow, they're able to survive. But for now, our
What the
Horizon
fuck?
Q is going to come through. Cloud9 maintains
Just-
control courtesy of a Gibby ultimate.
Yeah,
Or Dome Shield, sorry.
What?
Gibby does. Also, I didn't know that Gibby could
Oh
float
my
quite
God, the
that
big
well, but
nade.
he does, and I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to see, but I love the discipline being shown there by C9 as well. They could have easily popped out of that bubble, but you pop out for 2 seconds and go for that kill.
Yeah,
Who knows
Steffi, but-
who's got their pre-aim on you?
This is
Who
funny.
knows who's looking straight down those sights and could be beaming you from multiple angles, so prioritizing survivability. The most important thing for C9 to do now, they have control of height, they have control of the top of the egg, ESA still underneath.
Yeah, 7
4 teams in the
remain,
pineapple,
and I
yeah.
love where this zone
The
is
EU
going
teams
to.
would have already
See right
tripped
here,
it.
overhead map will show you. It's going very center of this ring, and you can tell by the top left of your screen where the line pulls in the mini-map here. So Cloud9 will have to move towards Egg, and one of these 3 teams will get taken out. It's going to be Knock that manages to get a first kill. Actually, no, Skittle Cakes on BBG. Tempest gets taken out as well. Cloud9 is going to try and take advantage. They want to be the benefactor of the third party here, and they're going to be.
Wow.
Nice job from Cloud9. From hell to thriving right now is the 2 teams that were right on top of them eliminate each other. Cloud9, king of the hill.
Fight breaks out, C9 sets it. C9 third party, easy kills, but also complete and utter control now of this egg building. C9 just looking to patrol, looking to cause all sorts of problems for anyone who's trying to push in. There's actually a couple of players trying to push into this lower area at the moment of the egg, and C9 is saying, hey boys, this is our home address here. You cannot come in without knocking, and they're doing so much damage. Still alive as we're down to 4.
Yeah, I'm so glad we've followed this Cloud9 journey throughout. The fact that they are still alive, 100 Thieves right above them, but it looks like only down to 2 members left, Scurry and Omnu, as Vaxlon got taken out. So, Cloud9 with 2 above them.
Well, I don't know if Cloud9 can win this game. There's so many teams on their side, no? Oh, this is actually like perfect for Cloud9. That was perfect for them. They win this. They should win this. Theoretically, they win this 3v3.
Just thinking we can't win from here. Maybe a few KP to help us on our way to another
Ooh,
placement.
bubble
But now
fight.
it's CLG versus
Zach, bubble
C9.
bad,
You
bro.
can see the bubbles
Zach.
are down here. Zach Mays has taken damage though on the crosser.
Zach,
Albrelli on
what the fuck
Gibby.
is he doing?
He's gonna have to do
Oh,
some work, but
Mac
it's
is going
massive
crazy
work.
right now for the
What will
team.
be doing? Big numbers coming in from C9. Albrelli gets the Spitfire out, sings the first, but he will go down here.
Nice.
And
Good job.
Cloud9 is going to do it. What a game from them. Albrelli,
Great game from Cloud9.
Naughty, and Zach Mazer performed so incredibly well to kick off Split 2 of the Pro League. They were quite literally under so much duress. 4 teams within just an inch of them in that egg in their vicinity. In some way, somehow, through some great comps, great IGLing from Zach, co-IGLing from Albrelli, they are the last team standing. What a game that was. I mean, that was high kills as well on set. They must have gotten at least 10 to 12 to 15 kills there as well.
Oh, super high kills, but the one thing that really stood out for me, C9, when they don't play well, they're a little bit reckless. When they play well, they show that reserve, they show that little bit of steel and the determination to play together, not overextend for kills. The kills will come to you if you have that God spot, and that reflects in that score, John. 12 points, of course, for the placements taking over first place, but 11
kills, 12, 23 points. That's a
C9.
massive game to start.
A Jordan game to kick things off for Cloud9. Great start.
Kind of confused as to what NRG was
Very top heavy
doing.
game in terms of placements. I mean, all the way down to 4th place, 6 points only for 100 Thieves, and they were able to get a 5th place overall in placement. So nice job from them to try and get some points on the board. But again, Cloud9 performing very well, and then some evenly distributed points. A couple kills here and there. Goes Gaming with 4 kills, though. They'll get 5 points, so that'll put them in the top 10 overall in standings. But really, the entire story is Cloud9. And Mark, start talking me through what did they do so well in that late game? I mean, it all started with Albrelli and the Mastiff, right?
Oh, 100%. In that final fight, Albrelli, if you're on Gibraltar, you get that arm shield up, you're doing as much damage as you physically can to the opposition. And this might sound like a really silly thing to say, right? But Gibby, you're the biggest target, so you've got to be the biggest damage dealer. If you do that and you go down and you've done more than enough damage for your teammates to clean up, you've done your job. Albrelli in that end game, chunking away with the Mastiff. Perfect play from him on Gibraltar.
Match point system, not for this tournament. The 6 tournaments that we play before playoffs are just normal 6 games, collect points, and wherever you end up, you end up. And then playoffs is the match point system.
Now standing here for Cloud9.
Absolutely insane game. It was really the charge rifle that was doing it for him. I saw him actually want to drop his Evo shield and saying, hey, look, let me swap shields out because I'm not missing with this charge rifle right now, and it shows 3k damage. Are you kidding me? That is near a record in competitive Apex. Albrelli popping off, the former TSM GOAT. Definitely has already cemented himself in the Apex Legends Hall of Fame with the 5 straight championships he got with HAL and Reps, and continuing.
What's the biggest difference between World's Edge and Stormpoint? Size of the map, really.
At least my Greek brother popping off on controller as well as Valkyrie, and obviously giving
It's
them
like
the utility they needed as well. But a really, really good game. And
there's
all
a
of them
difference in
over a
size
damage,
where
about
Raid's
6 to
portal
7K damage as a team,
is no
collectively,
longer
a really,
useful
really great game
in
from
Stormpoint
Cloud9 there. And I will say, Mark, I had a chance to do
because there's also height problems. Like a lot of times, Raid cannot portal to certain upward destinations because the map is like elevated, like on a hill. So in that case, Ash's portal is a lot better because you just point where you're going to go upwards or this and there, and just go.
From the overall performance of C9 there, one was the discipline, right? Discipline is the key for C9 to succeed.
How did they choose the map now? That there's two maps. It's 3 games of Stormpoint, 3 games of World's Edge. Can climb fast enough? Yeah, and it's difficult to get the port up.
More solid decision making, playing for your lives a little bit more.
You have to live there, Kawhi.
That's great. Also, I want to give out a huge shout out
Best
to
Ghibli in the
well,
game from my POV.
Nuts, like it's ridiculous. It's probably one
Probably
of the best plays
Lou.
we've ever seen in Apex Legends. But being able to put your ego aside and jump onto Gibraltar and do the damage with a charge rifle and a Mastiff in your hand, it says a lot about, I think, not only his mentality and the willingness to win, to do whatever it takes to win, but also the respect he has for his teammates to play on the other Legends and do the damage that he probably wishes that he could do as well.
Yeah, that's
Good morning,
right. In my
Tom.
opinion, Alberelli, one of the smartest players in all of Apex. I put him alongside Monsoon. I put him
Some
alongside
Nightcrawler.
Sweet Hal in terms of his brain, the way he thinks about the game, and obviously he brings a lot to this Cloud9 roster. I mean, there was a lot of question, why'd they drop Noct for Alberelli? I think that game truly showed. I mean, having Alberelli as kind of a secondary co-IGL alongside Zach, crucial, and Cloud9 looked really, really, really good there in Game 1. The question is, can they keep up the consistency in Games 2 through 6? We'll find out. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll have Rain Day. We'll have Vicky Kitty live for Game number 2 right after this.
Monster
Hey,
Energy,
Sai.
the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series.
You cannot play other regions from other regions. If you're in NA, you gotta play NA. If you're in EU, you gotta play EU. Not wearing pants, yeah. Ian, because the zone pushed them in their back and they were gonna... So the backside of the dome thingy was good cover, but once the zone pushes you to the middle part of the dome, then CLG can see you and beam you. This music is not a vibe. and you said it is a vibe? Oh god. Yeah, Rich, that's exactly what it means.
On rock! Jumping on, jumping up! I crack, give me! I idiot on Ash! Give me dead! Ash and Dome, one shot! Ash absolute! Ash absolute!
Let's go! That's how we do it, boys.
Oh man, you can tell the passion is alive and well on the beaches of Storm Point. And of course, there's no point to talk about that before we introduce ourselves. It is Rain Day and Vicky Kitty handling game number 2, and also Vicky handling the spice of what we saw, reacting to that first game from C9. I mean, what a way to kick it off You mentioned they were taking a dip in the pool, then they just cannonballed at the end and said, "This is our game to win. Let's do it."
Yeah, their hard edge playstyle really benefits them in the late game, and I'm glad that they're sticking to this on Storm Point. We were talking a little bit about it during the break, but I feel like the switch over to Storm Point has benefited
That's just
C9
fucking
more than
mouthful
anything.
to
And
say.
in that first game, that really showed it to us. I mean, 11 kills, what a way to start things off, but I love how slow the start of that game was. Game number 1, a lot of these teams, they're just dipping their toes in
For some reason, I want to say
They all just plunked themselves in when they figured out the water form here, and that's what I like to see for game number 1 here for the LGS.
Warm water, baby. I mean, you know, hey, Storm Point, that's what I expect. I see the beaches, I see the sand. I'm like, all right, there's some spiders, but it at least looks warm. You know, I get the discount, but now I'm like, I'm here. Let's get in here. And also, let's see what the teams did before you guys jump into game 2. We have a leaderboard to show you of how the action has settled for our first match. And you know, C9 took first place, but it also means CLG, Atlanta Premier Esports Arena, and Built by Gamers rounded out the top 5. Casuals, 100 Thieves, RCO Esports, Ghost Gaming, and Charlotte Phoenix got in the mix, but it's really a story of CLG.
CLG did really good.
In fact, CLG maybe taking a little bit of the, you know,
9 with 9 kills second.
Very strong game. 18 points to start. We didn't mention
NRG
much,
just that was something.
Yeah, and it's a good way to start building up that gap between those first 2 teams and then the rest of the squads here that you're going to be seeing. And I just want to note, never again am I going to let Mark be able to take over these predictions because I'm going to get so lucky. Look at Energy. What a rough start here for Energy when all our predictions were on Energy. Hopefully they can bounce back. It's almost a little bit of some deja vu looking how Energy did in that very first week.
Time has a 19-inch. She didn't say your name.
Maybe getting a bit of that deja vu just out of the way here and having that first game just to wash your hands with.
Coming in based on number 2 in terms of points of the overall ALGS, NRG has a lot to prove, but I've seen them also have a little bit of a time that they rev up to their maximum potential throughout these lobbies. I think there are teams that are a little bit more aggressive and they're either on or off. Energy feels like they're a slow burn, a team that starts to get good, and once they figure it out, are finding themselves getting these big point games. Now, winning at the end has been the issue I've seen for them, Vicky. Do you think there's a way that they can turn it around so quickly, or do you expect that it's still going to be a couple of games before they start getting things rolling?
I feel like depending on how these end circles are pulling, I mean, we know that Energy lands checkpoint, and their plan in mind usually is to rotate up through North Pad, and since that was on the complete opposite side of where that final circle was pulling, that was troublesome for Energy, and they kind of got caught in the middle of that rotation, maybe trying to take things a little slowly. If necessary, sometimes they try to go for third parties in Mill and Cascade. That's what I've seen so far in their scrims. So looking at these final circles, that first circle, unfortunately, just was not beneficial for Energy there.
How do you tell which part of the game it is? Because there's so many factors changing. It's the map, it's the first game, it's the lobby.
I just kicked my monitor.
This ALGS against different teams each time you're going out to play over the weekend. And then it's the lineups too. Obviously introducing the Horizon instead of the Wraith. Mark and Fallout did a great job talking about the adjustments to this meta. But again, Vicky, that's a difference. There is a lot of different teams.
Get on the desk. Yeah, I'm chilling.
That all of these teams are working with as we head into game 2. It's going to be very interesting to see which element starts to make the biggest difference here as far as determining a winner.
And looking at these highlights,
Imperial Halal.
overall, looking at what we had seen in our split 1, TSM
How?
really
Oh,
popped off.
action.
I know Hal gave a shout out to the team.
My
press
chair
that we had here on the
leans
talent
back and
desk.
forth.
But you know, for a reason, seeing
And
some
I
of
had
the
my
highlights,
feet
they were
under
able to
my
pop off,
monitor.
and, you know, now you have
Not
the
like my
rest of the
foot.
NA teams trying to just
So when
stay
I
in touch with
pulled
that
it back,
there
I
too. But
smacked my
just
monitor.
touching up on the compositions that we've seen, I love how Fallout and Mark were able to highlight just how this high to low ground destination is going to try to change things up. You have a lot of verticality added to a lot of these
No,
teams.
I
You're
was
seeing the
so
Horizon, you're seeing
my
the
leg
Ash, and
is
I
below
like
my
that
monitor.
too. I like the fact
My
that
monitor is
obviously
on a
still have
stand.
the Gaby coming out. We still have
So
those
when
games
I
that are so crucial
was
in those late
pulling
games.
my
And I think that with some of these adjustments and having to swap
Oh, you're
between
talking about the
Stormpoint and
booba. Oh.
World's Edge, these compositions are going to change
It's the
things up
monitor
a
on
little
desk. No,
bit
it's on a stand.
Finding risk and
So the stand is
balancing
like
that with reward is the key to, I think, a
the
lot of
stand
these
is connected to
starting
the
out as
back
well.
of the desk, so there's nothing below the monitor. Like I can put my feet below the monitor. There's nothing here.
Not even playing till tomorrow.
It's empty
Okay,
space.
relax, buddy. Stay on your own channel. And you can see here TSM Alberlelli, obviously playing for Cloud9, but one of the founding members of that legendary
How far
team
back
is
does your
Osprey.
chair go?
Translated his
Pretty
skills
far.
to a couple of different teams. It seems like such a
It could
good
go even
fit.
further.
And the charge rifle as well, such a good weapon with the distance that it's been closing. The massive charge rifle taking that kind of anchor role for his squad, and it's worked out so well, especially with most of that fighting either long distance or on the top in the middle of that egg we saw.
Yeah, Rain, I'm actually so glad that you were able to bring that up. The charge rifle is so crucial here on Storm Point. We saw it with Reps earlier when they were actually able to take out the charge rifle, putting so much damage, but you saw the damage that we just saw coming up from C9 just with the charge rifle alone, looking at Abraleli and just the amount of impact that they were able to have to secure.
Thank you, Alter Fego.
But that's what we're going to see. We talk about the composition with these different characters, but we have to
You
focus
listen to the
on
new
gun
Stoa song,
compositions and how important that
Tedim,
charge
is it
rifle is.
Akuma?
Yeah, it's going to
Or
be
which one
something
is
you
it?
see a lot here heading into game number 2.
Hey, the Dark Name Slender, thank you for 2 months.
The
Welcome back.
nickname Slender just resubscribed for 2 months.
Of this place that disguises nothing about the dangers that lie ahead, whether it be parasite,
Born to be
animal,
real. Oh, I didn't
or
listen to it.
simply an R301
Let's listen to it after this game then.
There are horrors around
I was a
the
little
board,
bit
and it's gonna be
mental
which team navigates
AFK
them the best, or maybe which team
for the past few days, not gonna lie.
times.
Maid costume got actually cancelled and I had to reorder it here then. It was like 2 days late to delivery and then they just returned my money for no reason. They cancelled it.
And more importantly, Vicky,
So I had to
because of the
reorder it.
nature of the way these tournaments run,
Kinda
game
weird.
2, maybe even more impactful as far as how we're going to see this team perform throughout.
So it's gonna come in a week or
Yeah,
whatever.
seeing how split up C9
If it
is,
comes.
you can see that they're going to be able to cover a lot of ground here by launch pad. They're going to be able to loot up quickly here. I also saw Abraleli briefly.
Yeah, it
on
will
that
come. I
training,
just
which is
reordered it.
obviously something else
Just
that
gotta
we have
wait
to
for it.
highlight. We heard it earlier on from Fallout and Mark, but
Yeah, I took a few days off and I didn't really pay attention to social media much. And I've been stressing out over something, over the cover for the debut. I've been stressing out a lot. There's multiple mixes that I've done, and I don't know which one I like, and I'm just stressing out over it a lot, trying to figure out like what I want to do.
But it also reminds you of, take a look at where the team we've been talking about, C9, is
I
right
think
now.
sub goal will reach for the maid costume ramp. Well, the sub goal is for the Pekora cosplay. It's not for the maid costume. The maid costume is gonna happen either way.
This is going to be a much bigger test, Vicky, to see can they translate the opposite way, run into a lot more teams, probably have a little bit more pressure, and you know, I think community-oriented players trying to establish their points before they get there and have a chance.
What's got you stressed?
Maybe a little bit
I
more
just
fighting,
have
but maybe a little
multiple
bit more aggression
mixes
coming their way to get to
that sound
hotspot
differently,
where they seem to have been very much
and I don't know
more
which one
passive
I want to use, and I'm like just confused.
LMK, they usually share this drop spot here with RCO, so looking like they already were able to pick up that early KP, starting things off.
What the
already
fuck happened?
quicker
Who
than
died?
What we had seen in that first game, but a very good look.
Oh, they
for
killed
one of
RCO
our
off
challenger
drop?
circuit teams that have made their
Holy
way
shit.
into this ALGS, and we've talked a bit in the past. I mean, I've seen Dimmy pop off before, and I like to see how Dimmy has been able to make that adjustment, as Dimmy was on motors in that split
Shut the
one.
fuck up!
Francesca, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. You didn't have to, but thank you so much.
Rotate towards that southern part of that circle where it's going to be pulling more so towards
Appreciate
that
you so much.
19 squads remaining, already one down. Couple kills to the name of Turns playing the Ash. And about 50 seconds here in round 1. For all you players there, you'll start to see those Valkyrie ultimates charged up. Doesn't mean they'll be used, especially with LMK here having some potential to take their time.
Cloud9?
More, but you will see
But thank you so much for the thank you. Appreciate you so much.
Cloud9 on their way as well. So teams starting to set up.
They're probably stacking up, man. Yeah.
Two blues and
Oh, yeah, Shiba.
purple here for Stay Naughty. Going into the replicators. Whether it's shield bats or especially the extended level 3 heavy bag, Mickey, there's a lot of stuff in there that's valuable today, especially even the purple backpack.
Yeah, and the boosted loader, it has to be the highlight because we see the wingman coming out, the hemlock, of course. That boosted loader is definitely going to help things out here with a lot of our heroes here running those wingmans. And
How do you feel about Stone Point as a competitive map? I don't mind it. I always said I like multiple maps in competitive. I would love to play all of the maps in competitive, really.
What could have already been looted here, but also trying to highlight the composition that we see from Team Liquid running the
Nah, because it's like
and that's exactly what they were looking
it's just
for, but maybe biting more
stress because I have to make a decision and it's like an important decision that I can't make right now. I'm not in the right mental space right now to make this decision.
ALGS pro game here. I know a lot of you
Yeah,
have
it is
enjoyed the
Ibs.
new mode, and this is one of the only 2 places you can play it. So, going to be very familiar for casual fans as to how to hold this center dome at the bottom and the height on top. But you can see as well, so many teams already getting their preferences in terms of being established. You see some shots coming in from Liquid onto 100 Thieves. And you're right, the Loba. Talk to me a little bit about
Liquid's
why
playing
you think
Loba?
this is so important, Vicky, because
Loba.
we've seen the Loba, we've seen the Horizon,
Loba's
we've seen
booty.
the Ash become staples in this new meta, but why the Loba?
Well, if you look at Team Liquid's composition, with Nocturnal being on this Valk, I mean, obviously we've been seeing so much Valk since her release, but it's so that way you could get to these final circles to hold that final positioning a lot more
Loba's
consistently.
booty.
And with Caustic having those nerfs, you won't be able to really secure these buildings as secure as you would want to with those gas traps unfortunately getting nerfed. But with the Loba, you don't have to commit too hard. You have that black market so you can stay looted
I
up.
haven't
You
talked
have
to
that final
anyone
circle
for
positioning that you can use with the Valkyrie
joining the
ult.
watch
It's a
party.
great
Coming, I'm just
spot
gonna do
here
it on
for
my
them to
own.
not really overcommit with a lot of these teams already securing the final circle buildings that they want.
I'm just kind of chilling today. I don't feel like talking to much people.
Speed of that ultimate too. It's not just the loot. It's 2 for each player, but you can get it up in another 2 minutes afterwards, which when you compare it to maybe Wraith's Dimensional Rift Portal that a lot of you are familiar with, it's 3.5 minutes to get that ultimate. So over 30% more you'll be able to get over.
Someone say Guerrilla, what's up, you?
And also, let's talk about mobility
I'm
and
kinda-
mobility too, Vicky, because you're going to play a
Kinda
lot
Guerrilla,
of areas
kinda
that require you
announced.
to get up.
Shut the fuck
And
up.
sometimes
Shit, but thank you,
the
Tom, man.
characters
Welcome
just
back.
Resubscribe
Congrats,
for 12 months.
Thank you.
Resident Sleeper, Resident
CLC,
Sleeper.
though, a little bit in trouble. Charlotte Phoenix trying to get a punch for his team. Greek getting the revive.
I'm
But
just
Bowser
chilling.
knows they're in trouble. He's got to hold some angles.
I was looking at
Watching
Charlotte Phoenix in that
LGS,
first game originally
trying to
because
not fall
they
asleep.
usually landed Stormcatcher, which is why they had to make this quick rotation with the Valk ult, but look how much damage they're taking right now. They need to utilize this portal, get to safety in this egg-shaped building here,
It's
try to
looking
get out of
bad
that
for them.
point of view, especially
Nah,
with
they're
the
good.
shields
They
they're running
put
right
it.
now. I mean, Greek is still getting shot at the same time, so bit of a pressuring situation here for Charlotte Phoenix.
It's a good showcase of what is the difficulty
Hey,
of this
Giddy.
map. And you'll see the ability for you to be in a nice egg-shaped building. There seems to be a lot of
Real
that
meta
here
is always in
in
APAC, that's
Stormpoint,
true.
which creates this
Placing
interesting
up
kind of
partner blanket. I'm just cold.
1v1 opportunity. I don't want
What
to
time
push,
is
you
it?
don't wanna push
It's midnight.
down. But then wide open spaces, wide open lakes, and beautiful blue water and high ground, and you have to find a way to traverse those. It's one of the reasons we've seen the Ashe become so successful with that phase breach, the instant translocation of her and the team to height across those areas, but you can get caught out very, very easily, as Charlotte Phoenix did mention there. Greek going down, but obviously back up, stabilized for now, as we have 18 squads left here.
I know it's a bit unusual time for me to stream, guys, but I mean, you know, LGS starts at 11 p.m. my time, which is like 5 a.m. for you guys, so I can't do anything about it. And I said I was gonna watch it with you guys, so.
That's why you're seeing so much of the charge rifle being utilized with those open spaces and seeing where that circle is going to be pulling. I got my eyes on that northern building right on top of Barometer, and that's going to be so important. You've seen
The energy cam is just gone. Okay, fine. What does LGS stand for? Apex Legends Global Series. Can you Ash Paul inside Gibby them? I think the dome blocks the end of the portal. Command Center is fixed, really?
Rotating very, very late in this zone. You'll see this often in Apex Legends competitive, maybe more so on Stormpoint due to the
Could I come grab one?
Hey. What just happened? Why did their audio die? Is this like a caster curse? Am I cursed? What? Is this because I opened it? What? Is this my fault? This is fucked. Yeah, so I can't watch energy stream because they don't like me. Oh.
If we
Yeah, okay. I can't watch it. They don't like me.
Been a massive headshot, but Cloud9 get the job done anyway. Add 3 points to the tally. That's 3 kills, 26 points on the day. Big shout outs to the team creating all that UI to keep us informed and aware of where these teams stand. And it's always a great sign to see a team that
Wow,
performed so well
I'm tired.
in game 1 continue in some situations just like that to still do well.
It's all about that momentum. I love how we usually highlight it all the time, but it's for a reason there. And you can see how that's continuing on for C9.
C9 hitting the beak. They also got kills. They killed 3 people.
And I like the position that they're in too. You see, they're going to be able to approach from that
What did you
southern
eat today?
side, so they're going to avoid a lot of the chaos that's already happening in Barometer, and maybe go around the circle instead. Maybe just try to rotate away from Barometer.
What did
for
I
right
eat?
now, take their time and rotate through the edge of circle, like we were highlighting before we went into game number 2.
Well, it's 17 squads here. It's been a good start. It's been a little slower as well. We already know where it's heading, and Zach Mazer on the horizon. So fun
Oh,
to see
I ate
new
some.
characters come in, and it always makes you wonder as a casual
It
fan,
was like
well, what
chicken
happened?
baked
I mean,
in
did
like a
Horizon get
rice and
get a
potato
buff?
combo.
Did, you know, something happened
And
in
it's
the
like
patch
baked.
notes that I missed? Why is this character suddenly
And then for
at
dinner
the
I had
forefront,
chicken
and not
tortilla.
just at the forefront, in
Like
the interesting
basically
kind of
wrapped chicken wraps.
in-game leader position here? And we've talked about it a little bit. We'll continue to talk about why she's made that transition today, especially.
And that's
Stormpoint,
total
but
kills, Shida.
Optimal ambition. Got to give a shout out to one of, if not the only team
Was
running
yummy, yeah, it
crypto
was
today
good.
who did certainly get some buffs, Vicky, to make that drone a lot more easier and effective.
Today is also my
Get
day
all
off.
those EMPs and have an impact in this high-level play.
Day off from working out. So I work out 3 days, take a 1 day break, work out 3 days, take a 1 day break. And today usually is my today is like my 1 day break from working out, so I'm like super low energy because my body is like my body knows it's like rest day today.
Trying to chase them down at the same time, but with Rack and this rampage, I'm scared. I'm in danger. You have the farming coming down, and 6 gets deleted running
Oh
the
no,
bank.
6 got thirded. Oh wait, who did he get killed by?
Squad. And
Playing Bangalore? Oh no, it's Raps. Zach knocked him, yeah.
Up and down. It's gonna be tough though. Impulse, he's gonna fall, and this is C9 doing
Flight
what they do.
Horizon.
Zach comes out from the skies. Horizon.
Oh, they are
shows
getting
them
to
just
the.
how good she is and why
Oh,
maybe
are
she
they?
shouldn't have left.
No,
for as
this is the
long as
same
she
team
did.
they're
That
fighting.
charge rifle, boy, oh boy, is that thing hitting? It is just keeping pressure on and on.
Wait,
and they
C9's
are
doing really
willing
well.
to stay here in
This map
zone
really
as
fits
it pulls
C9's
away
playstyle a lot,
to
I feel
finish
like.
this fight, get these downs. It's Rakanishu trying to run away from what is a rampant Cloud9.
They got the res up surprisingly here, and C9 just taking their time to play with their food, and it's that charge rifle that you were talking about before that Lele was able to get the original knock here. C9 still playing outside the circle.
You
They
should
know
leave
that they've
that
been
in.
making some noise as the circle is going to be able to close in around Barometer.
Oh, they should get this kill.
Hearing the chaos going on right now, but C9 they had the advantage being on the high ground, but getting
That's
beat
not
on
good
the left
at
side,
all.
Zach goes down.
Oh no, and this
We
is
need a
not
bubble
what
rest
they expected here.
ASAP.
It was a third party from the left. They're gonna have to get Zach
He might
down.
die
Now they
doing
can't
this.
pursue those kills. It's double trouble. Did they fight off more than you could chew?
Okay,
You
we're
can
good,
see it.
but
Charlotte Phoenix, Greek,
we
and
need to
Bowser,
Valkult
who
over
were
this.
able
If
to
I'm
contribute to
C9,
getting that knock on Zach, maybe a little too greedy. And these are the things you have
wait,
to
do they even
traverse,
have
not
Valk? He's
just
not
the
playing
ability
Valk.
to find that kill,
Oh, Zach's
get
1
aggressive,
HP,
have an
barely
opportunity to
alive.
keep your momentum up, but to not overstep it and
If I
set
am
yourself up for failure by taking
a
a
C9,
little bit
I'm
more
calling.
on
Wait,
than
Zach
you should
knocked
before
someone.
healing,
What?
and this is just a
And
good
he got
awareness
knocked.
there, Charlotte
They got
Phoenix
wiped
now has
actually.
their eyes trying to
What?
gatekeep Cloud9.
Okay, that's unlucky.
And this would be so good for Charlotte Phoenix. They need this loot. We saw what happened earlier. They had to rotate early on so that
They
way
got,
they could get to the
mirrored by
circle, since
casuals.
They usually led pretty far away from where the circle's going to be pulling. Casuals here, they're going to be able to restabilize. They're the ones playing
We need
outside
to
the circle
Valkyrie.
this time around. They made their way to the party
Yeah,
a
they
little late, and they
C9
do
was
not
kind of in
like
the
what
middle of
they're seeing.
everyone.
Mom,
They
pick
should
me
have
up,
chilled a
I'm
little
scared.
bit more and tried to
Exactly, but you
stabilize.
gotta wait. Oh, well, it's actually 2:45
They got
for
some
our
kills
front
though,
school time
so
right there, so
it's
there
not the
could
end of
be
the
some,
world.
Early pickups potentially.
Why is this guy dead to Storm?
I wouldn't blame him. Casuals.
Okay, it's gonna be zone 3. They should Valkult after this medkit.
Things interesting color-wise and playing out
100% they should Valkult right here.
Once ring
Come
4
on,
starts to hit,
hit it.
it will start to chunk too much for any engagements without a heat shield to sustain them, but they're taking their time, and this is again something unique to
Well, I guess they're gonna
Stormpoint.
wait until last second.
And not
That's a
necessarily
weird
being
time to choose.
competitive, but the length of time Stormpoint really allowing this to happen. A Valkyrie
I really want to see energy, but I feel like if I open energy stream, it's not gonna work.
Recap what Casuals did too. We were talking about how a lot of these teams are going to be rotating from outside the circle a lot later. They're going to be taking that ring damage, but you have to watch out. When
Whoever has that little dome area on the side of the circle probably wins this game.
Right there. So if you are that edge playing team, you're gonna have to look out for a lot of these later approaching teams
from me, at
as they
least.
are gonna rotate from outside the ring. Goes Gaming, they get
Okay.
to see another day. They
Let's
got
give it
out of that
another shot.
situation, and they were able to reposition so that way they do not.
I mean, they have to Valkyrie.
They have to Valkyrie.
They have to Valkyrie.
Valkyrie.
Get him, Nate. Get him. Get him.
Give you guys a blue. They might land below us or something. I don't know where else they're going deep.
Oh, I knew you were gonna hit one.
Bottom barometer tower.
They're fucking dead. There's definitely a team in there.
Get it because there's other than kill points. Kill points is like obviously 1 point per kill, but there's placement points. If you get first place, you get 12 points on top of your kills. So like winning the game is really valuable. You want to be alive as for as long as possible because you want to get as many placement points as you want combined with kill points. And it's the most consistent way to play the game in competitive is to play for placement points. Also, every fight you take is not a guaranteed win, you know, because you're playing versus other pros who are also good at the game, and then there's other pros who also want to third party you. So like you're just not guaranteed you're gonna win a fight.
Probably just hold that and then try and fight
Get
the
there,
team.
wait for the gas to move in, and then we try to bait these guys as EMP.
Placement points is too valuable, so everybody's a bitch. It's not even about being a bitch, it's about being smart.
But mostly like this side, like this wall.
Like
right
you
here
can
and
take
shit.
every single 3v3 in this game and you would get third partied, or you have no guarantee you're gonna win it. I see. When I watch it, it doesn't work, man. I'm molding, dude. I'm so fucking molding, dude.
Gotta wait on Bob, dude. I think this thing got put cross there.
Oh man,
that happened.
Rain.
And there's like 5 teams sharing
That's
this.
so unfortunate.
2 teams, but
Heard too in the listening notes. I may be
CTL,
dead.
CLT actually lost. Oh, it's a bubble fight. Tech misses to. Oh, he actually hit something.
And now Furia, they saw the opportunity.
Wait, Tech did it.
Fighting happening on the outside, and they completely clear out those buildings from Charlotte Phoenix, who was secured here for quite some time to wait out on the opportunity.
Do you guys want the SMR?
Spot for Furia when it comes to their rotations, and now they're gonna have a good amount of loot to work with too.
Furia do have an aggressive lineup, and that's the thing the Bloodhound brings, despite not bringing the verticality of a Horizon, whereas not bringing the same level of rotation abilities and information as a Valkyrie. But you do get the recon element to the Bloodhound. I think that's what makes Bloodhound so viable in general, the fact that serves as a recon legend, but also just now you've got aggressiveness that you can hit that ultimate, you can go into the hunt, you can scan, you can help your teammates out, and you can really push these fights at a tempo that not every other team can do. Which is
happening here?
giving Fury a little bit of an edge here. 3 points out of the 5 total that they've gotten.
Oh, wait, pulled away from
They
them?
are pushing on this left side as round 4 is coming to an end. And
Well,
round
if
5
this zone
comes
happens in
again
EU,
versus
we win
squads,
the game
like we
because we'll
mentioned.
end barometer.
In game 2 of this ALGS day 1. And it's Tech again looking to push with this bubble. What can they make happen? Oh, after they take a little bit of time to go shopping.
Ooh, shiny. You saw how quickly he was able to shift that focus, seeing the black market
Yeah,
right
it's a
in front.
fucking
Good call
partner
to be a little bit
blanket,
more
not a
passive as they
partner
were forced
blanket.
to kind of funnel up those stairs. You can see as that team is waiting for the opportunity
Twitch
to
partner.
capitalize off of that. Meanwhile, on the very high ground barometer is 100 thieves that have secured the tallest building, a C3 approach that a lot of these teams are going to be taking when it comes
What
to
should I learn if I
securing
want to
these
get
final
into
buildings
competitive
of the
Apex? This question might be asked a lot, so I firstly apologize, but I feel like there's so much thing I didn't know. It's hard to explain what you should learn. You gotta get 2 teammates and start playing scrims, and then there's too much to tell you what you need to learn. You have to experience it. You have to go and play and experience it. And then watch other teams, like watch like tournaments, and then follow just one team the entire tournament and be like, why are they playing like the way they're playing? Like, try to rationalize everything they're doing and why they move like they move, why they rotate like they rotate. And that's how you're gonna learn.
You You know a lot of these players are playing much more close quarters. You have those buildings that these players want to secure here, so that scan is providing so much information while being on that Bloodhound pick. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves, they know they're getting scanned here, but they know that they're not going to be threatened and forced off of this high ground. They're seeing a lot of the action happening right below them. You see the bombardment ready here for Scurry too, as he takes some of the
Scurry is not good with this thing. He's got 9 bullets. What the fuck is he doing?
Is still in that beast of a hunt, though, which is why they are
He's got 4 cells. No bad.
I know that guy, Scurry, feels pretty confident with the
That's not very good.
in his hand. On move, Vaxlon, how
2 cells in a bat. They are out of juice.
Okay.
Ooh, ooh.
I got her.
Nice. You guys need that loot. Onmu should drop. I don't know.
What are we gonna do? We have to do something.
Let's go, let's go.
I don't know about Valkult. Is Valkult the play here?
Team on the right's gonna fight.
I feel like it isn't.
Team's taking that small rock. Team taking that small rock. Cover for a bit.
I hit 30-30 with a passion. Honestly, you're like me for real, for real. I can't hit the fucking thing with that thing, but I'll fucking take a wingman and knock out 7 squads. Put a 30-30 in my hands and I'm silver too.
Turn and look right now.
Yeah. Look, where's right, bro? This guy, Vaxlon's lost. He doesn't know what's left, what's right.
To left.
I'm gonna be ulting this.
Make sure you secure your rocks, man. Don't give up everything.
I have no ammo. I'm just in
It's another Manda. Yeah, that's my
I
boy.
think we clean this. We gotta run over there and clean it.
yes.
What's left, what's right? I tell Manda, yo, they're on the right side. He's like, what's left, what's left? I'm like, yeah, we're going right. Yeah, I'm watching left.
I only have shotgun.
Follow me. We're TP on this. You ready? Go. Take my TP and bubble.
I don't know about this play. Actually, it could work out. Get some ammo, bro, and get some fucking cells. There we go.
We're gonna have to fight a team.
But now they're fucked. Like,
We gotta fight
they have to where are they gonna go? They're like, yeah.
Not only the phase has been breached, but the top 10 as well.
If they survive here somehow, I'll be surprised. Nah,
Impact here. CLG on the other side has been dominant, but how dominant can they be against Fire and the Flames? And a couple
Vaxlon,
of
start
shotgun
popping
shells.
cells or something.
Vaxlon making sure they know
Or
he's
bat.
there. And Skittlecakes finds Scurry though. This is 100 Thieves falling down. What
Imagine Manda's RGL skills. If you can do a left from right, he would be unstoppable. An unstoppable human being.
Living to the name quite literally right now, as they saw that
If only
drop
he
here for
figures
100
out
Thieves,
left
and
and
now
right.
they're gonna be able to rotate out, hopefully try to reset, as CLG is on the other side
Oh,
of
Force was ratting. He got 4. Now it's a 3v3v2. We got CLG in another top 3. That is crazy consistent right now.
With the tether, getting tethered back, that is going to be tough to get out of there. It's going to pull you. It's going to do the damage, but they don't want to move.
Oh, this is no bueno, mi amigo. Bubble that shit.
For this
Yeah.
one. It seems like Esports Arena may be in a better position to hit the shots and put it in the hoop, but of course
Yeah, looking like a top 3 for CLG. Oh, actually, they can play that bridge side. What is CLG doing?
That is still 100 Thieves. It's a phase breach. It's going to be CLGs and 100 Thieves fighting. This is Esports Arena with a chance to clean up the
Only
mess.
Nene, I swear to God.
Will they clean it up? Noct heading over to the left-hand side. He's got the car in his hand.
Only
and it's a
Nene.
drive-by,
What's up,
baby.
Ramon?
Esports Arena is your champion again, too.
What
They
was
were in
that?
such a good position to just wait out the fight in front of them. They saw CLG, they saw 100
They were
just
like,
fighting it out right before
alright,
their eyes. It's
let's
like, you know what,
Ash
this is
TP
our
on this
time to
team.
shine. And
Alright, I'm
they
going first. I'm
thrived
dead.
off of that final
Alright, now you.
position.
Okay, I'm going now. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, okay, last guy now. Okay, I'm going now. Oh, I'm dead. Oh, we all died to them. Oh, that's unlucky.
Being involved is not the best thing for your in-game
CLG said, hey, 100 Thieves, you guys are a duo. Here's 3 kills for you guys.
They lost a little bit of the discipline there.
Where's
in
my-
going to push 100 Thieves.
where's
They
my
also
pillow,
realized
dude?
there wasn't a good way out in terms of their position. They were going to have to fight eventually, so why not just be the aggressors, Vicky? And I think it actually worked out pretty well for them. But Esports Arena, because of those final 3 kills
lost
and
my
because
pillow.
of the extra 3 points that they're going to get for first place, 5 points over that, it's going to result in a much bigger score, 21 to lead the lobby there.
And this is amazing too, because you can see the difference between what we had seen as aggressive as C9 came out to swinging with 9 kills after they took that victory in game number 1. And now game number 2, we see something similar here with Esports Arena finishing things off with 9 kills, 100 Thieves following right behind that. But a lot of our teams, we saw the chaos. I thought that the circle was going to pull north of Barometer, but boy was I wrong, as it actually ended up pulling all the way south. And you saw the funnel of all the players that were already securing that northern point of Barometer just funneled from the circle into the line of sight of a lot of our teams here.
My pillow is gone.
You've got to be ready for all these situations, and the hardest thing to do, I think, as a team, is to go and win game 1 and then come back and win game 2. Because
so what happened to NRG chat? Obviously, I couldn't watch because they.
Is undoubtedly going to be different. It'll be a different rotation, a different final circle.
Guys, I just realized I can't really ever be a VTuber that's anonymous because, like, when I play LGS, it's gonna say my full name right here.
I'm not surprised that there's only 3 points.
Isn't that weird, chap? They're doxing their players.
Picking them up there off of the chase from Ghost Gaming. Maybe something to look back up and go back to the drawing board. But it was ESA, Vicky, who played the smartest, the strongest, and I think the most consistent.
Like, who the fuck cares what their real names are? Would you use the VTuber model for LGS? I'm gonna use it in LGS, yeah.
Right now saying ESA take this game number 2. I mean, Follow was highlighting ESA for a good reason. This is a team that has
you said you have to be anonymous to be a VTuber? Well, no one said that. But I just said if I ever wanted to be anonymous, it's impossible for me.
When it comes to looking at what's happening in front of them,
Name reveal isn't actually doxing though.
It wasn't a really good position for ESA. If they were the ones to pull out of behind that boulder first, they would have been in the line of sight of both CLG and 100 Thieves at the very end there. But 100 Thieves and CLG, they were shoulder to shoulder first, and they saw the opportunity, so they tried to take it and fully send it on 1-0.
As we check the leaderboards here to show you
how amazing would it be if I played with my model and I won a tournament or won the championship with my model? Wouldn't that be funny?
1-point game victory is in 2nd place, overtaking Cloud9, who won game 1. But let's just talk about it here. The team who has not won any game is 1st place with CLG.
Can't tell them to use your alias. They don't even ask. They just use your name without asking.
Because they are showing that they know how to play Stormpoint, whether they get the win or not. Still, Vicky, not necessarily what we would have expected for 4 of us to have selected NRG and see them after 2 with only 4 points. But of course, there's still a lot more tournament to go.
And you and I were talking a little bit about CLG right before we jumped in that game too. I love watching CLG on Stormpoint.
I have dual PC setup mythology, so
especially for
nothing can nuke my
are
FPS.
fantastic. They often usually go around fish farms or they take the hill up towards cliffside, but overall, you could see that CLG is playing into Stormpoint amazingly.
Well, obviously I'm not anonymous, guys. Even when I start streaming with my model, you guys are not gonna know how I look, so your memory is not gonna be erased. But I'm just saying hypothetically.
Take you to a whole new lane. It's like going at the bottom lane on a bowling alley and then going into the top where they do the leagues with all the oil, and now you got to change your whole shot. I'm saying that.
Okay, less talking from them, more music from me, and more talking from us. So how about that? While we wait for games. Oh wait, Toa's new song, right? Let's do that. Where was it released? Was it on Spotify? Yes, okay. Okay, let's listen to Toa's new song. Born to be Real. Oh shit, this is gonna be a banger, huh? Dude, Toa's been blasting metal lately. It was Flux, yeah. I love her voice so much. Oh my fucking good. Reroll, rewind. Rewind that spot. Again and again. Oh my god, she blasted it. This is an actual anime opening. I love her voice. Oh my god. This is Starlight. She's a VTuber. Ooh. This is such an anime opening. Oh. Oh. Dude, she's insane. This might be my favorite from the CP. God. God, that's my own shit. Fucking guitar in the back, the solo, holy shit. Born to be real, holy shit, what a good name. Dude, this is actually insane. Dude, she doesn't miss. Bruh. Dude, first we have Muna release the fucking banger, High Tide, and then we have Born to be Real. Like, this was also a banger, dude. I gotta tell Toa her song is fucking amazing. This song is also a banger. Gravity. God, what a banger. Is Tsunami on Spotify? Nope. Maybe Kira?
I can be a bright enigma. It's no surprise, yeah. But you give me into the brilliance, like I'm onto a lie. Playing hard to get, but I am patient. You succumb to my body radiance, yeah. When you look up.
This is such a banger, but Born to be Real, dude, I'm gonna be playing this song on repeat. Look at the fucking starting riff. It starts like one of some 41 songs, dude. That's crazy. That was such a good song. Back chilling though. But yeah, Born to Be Real is fucking insane. Holy fuck, what a good song. Jesus. That was insane. Sandra, what is a stupid question, man? Like, I don't understand. You watch Hollow Yen? Not really. Only person I watched a little bit from Hollow Yen is Gura. Can we try energy? Yeah. Well, didn't start yet. Oh, it did start. Is it any stream I touch just breaks? Oh, yep, energy is broken. Cool. I've listened to Gura and Kali's songs.
Fast rotate or a late rotate. We obviously opted for late rotate being one, and now didn't go wrong. We'll see if we get a northern or a northwest zone this time as they drop over towards checkpoint. We'll keep a close eye on energy and see what they can do as we kick things off with our Mexican team here at Scary.
And we're dropping ourselves into fish farms as well, and hopefully there won't be little fishies getting.
They don't drop. Oh, match ended badman.
In fact, that's a screen I didn't expect to see, to be honest with you. The match has been ended by an.
Alright. Hey, RPR, what are the meta weapons in Storm Point? Same weapons used on any other map. Someone cheat? Nah, it's probably someone crashed. So they ended the match. I wish I was good at singing, chat. I think it'd be better to practice. I do practice, but slow progress. Slow progress. I'm probably never gonna do karaoke, chat. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't think I'll ever have the confidence to do karaoke. What if I do with you? Well, there's difference if I do karaoke with my friends, but not on stream. I don't think I'll ever do a karaoke on stream. You're not retiring, aren't you? Why would I be retiring? What? I believe if you do covers more, you'll be getting better. I have 2 more covers coming. On my debut and after my debut. Super P, if I can, yeah, I will. Right now, I have one of the biggest dilemmas in my fucking career. Is like, I did a cover and I don't know which mix of the cover to choose for my debut. They both have their ups and downs. I just don't know what to do. Ask Root. I will. Also don't want to bother other people too much about it. I need to make a decision my own. It's rough, it's rough. Making decisions is rough. Ask Tova. I never really... Okay, this... might me being dumb, but I never really got to Tova with any of my stuff related to like singing and stuff like that, because I feel like I don't know, I don't want her to think that I'm trying to like use our friendship as a way to get something out of her or whatever. I haven't listened to the artist's new song. When's the U-turn? There's no U-turn, it's postponed. Is that what friends do? Yeah, but still. I don't know. Like I'm sure she would listen to it, but still. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't know. Is there a Ukrainian team? There's a lot of Ukrainian pros, yes. Which is why ALGS is postponed. I don't know, right? For the most part, I'm just stressed out a lot right now. This next month is gonna be the most stressful for me because I have to make a lot of choices that are hard to make for the debut, and I want to make the right choices, but I don't know what the right choices are. Nostalgia by Tay. Irish. I believe in your sense of music. Are you leaving scars? Why do people think I'm retiring or leaving scars? Oh, you think because I said there's a lot of choices to make? No, the choices I have to make are not regarding my pro career. They're regarding my debut as with my live 2D. I put in a lot of effort, time, money into it, and I want it to be perfect. So I'm just stressing out over things because I have to make certain decisions in regards to lore video, music video, etc. And I don't know what to do. Does energy work? Energy works.
With the 1x next to it.
The wing.
Yeah, just maybe I just have to sleep on it. It's also like I don't know, it's hard because here's the thing, there's two mixes, chat. Okay, energy does not work. Holy shit, man, I get baited every single time.
They rotate here, but Furia without Valkyrie
There's two mixes, chat. In one mix,
they of course do have a very,
in the new mix, I sang better overall, but I don't like. I feel like there's something about the mix that I don't like as much as I like the first mix, in which I sang worse. And they're done by different people. But the first mix, the artist, the mixer from the first mix is not responding anymore, so.
Sometimes I think they'd be more suited with just looking at the lobby and thinking, why are people having success, and what can we do to match that success? Instead of trying to sometimes think 2-3 steps ahead, which I think
they're the same song, yeah. They're just two different mixers. The original mixer is no longer responding, which is why I got a different mixer. But now this mix is, it's not a bad mix. This new mix is actually a really good mix. It's just mixed differently from what I'm used to from the first mix. But I no longer can get the original mixer anymore. It's a rough decision. It's because each mix delivers a different vibe, and I like the vibe of the first mix more.
You're looking across the loadouts of the players, and Team Liquid, who are on the other side of this fight, certainly have the armor advantage and also seem to have the weaponry advantage. I did see
the first mixer hasn't responded in 2 months yet, and I'm getting really close to the debut. I can no longer wait for him.
In these competitive lobbies, if there's a peacekeeper on the floor with a purple bolt and a Mozambique, I know what I'm picking up.
Switch on over to the casuals, as mentioned earlier. Akuma, Mexican player playing alongside two American players in FPS and Ziffer, are one of our challenger circuit teams that made it through. For those that were asking in chat and wondering,
can you send the first mix to the second mixer and ask if you can do it similar to the first one? I could ask if, but I already made him do 2 different mixes. I feel so bad.
Either qualified through placement in Split 1 or through the Challenger Circuit last season in Split 1. That's what you love about this format. And again, big shout out to the entire EA competitive gaming division and team. John Nelson, the commissioner of the ALGS, who used to be the commissioner for Major League Gaming back, when Nick and others competed.
I feel so bad because this mixer is really good, and I feel like I've been annoying the fuck out of him.
If you grind, if you want it, if you think you have what it takes, you can qualify to make it to the Pro League or make it to the championships. There's a last chance qualifier, so that open format, that open opportunity for anyone to qualify and make it through is always there, alongside having a chance to watch our best teams and best players play every single week, which is awesome.
One day, John, I hope to have
I don't know what to do.
Commissioner. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, when I think of commissioner, I think of like old WWF, like WWE, like the commissioner comes out and makes the matches, kind of like causes a stir. maybe that's going to be my my next move in my career. But for now, unfortunately, everyone at home, you're going to have to deal with me on the commentary desk. As RCO Esports are going to be in a pretty good position here, John. You can see where the circle is starting to move. They're inside, or just a few inches away, I should say, from where that beacon information has popped up. So they're going to be just kind of holding the high ground for now. But the only issue they do have, of course, as we look across the backpacks and the Evo armors, there's not a lot of damage being done by them at the moment. They have a good spot, but as the zone starts to close, the team starts to work their way in, and a little bit more damage is being done. Having 3 grey armors is really going to put them at a disadvantage. So you can see the poke weapon, the wingman, is going to have to start being used here. Some shots are going to have to be hit. 150 till that next Evo, but when you've got no one in your sights, it looks like a long way away from where you are right now.
Yeah, and keep in mind, a big part of why they're so light in loot is because they are splitting the loot in antenna 50-50 with LMK. And, you know, 50-50 looted antenna is not going to net you a whole lot, as you can see right now. They couldn't find a single blue shield here. Meanwhile, switching over to ESA, you talk about the ad of Tridents, Prowlers, a lot of things we're not used to seeing in competitive Apex here, as ESA is using the Trident over towards the mill to make their very, very wide load rotation. Look how ESA's played this rotation. By the way, take notes for anyone playing ranked right now. They are just hugging the northwest side of the map, making a very, very far north rotation. I like this decision, a very safe rotation coming through from ESA as they're playing Edge, which is, again, something that ESA is known for. An Edge team, that was, you know, talking to Verholst, that was the biggest thing he had to make in his transition to TSM. TSM likes to play early rotate. They always have. It's always been their bread and butter. ESA is the exact opposite. They like to play Edge and short right here.
They play Edge until they see an opportunity to take that God spot, right? And that's where the Valkyrie ult comes in, and that's where kind of a lot of their games hinge, and that's why they have success. Like I mentioned previously, they just have this ability, this knack to find a spot to play in that end game. And for now, if you want to break it down to the most basics and why this rotation is effective, hey, you're playing from height, and that's the most northern part of the map here on Storm Point is the highest point. So when you get into those edge fights, you're just going to have that natural advantage of being able to shoot down on your opponents. But sometimes it's the most simple things that are the most effective. At the other side of the map, we're going to see CLG now. They are right down at fish farms. They could not be further away from ESA at the moment. In the game, in the tables, in the points, maybe a little bit closer.
Yeah, in the point and in the drop spot. They both drop at the kind of southwest side of the map or the west side of the map. CLG opting for a southern rotation. I think they also probably used to try to have at some point. ESA opting for a northern rotation. They might be right in the heels of Ghost Gaming and NRG making their rotates. They got to be a little careful. Meanwhile, Furia gets in a fight against Impulsive Dream. You see at the top right of your screen. We'll see if we can catch that action and what's going on. It's going to be our first player knocked in this game.
Yeah, one thing to point out here is how slow these games have been at the start, right? There hasn't been many engagements, and that's just due to the fact that this is a big old map, Storm Point, and there's a lot of space to play with. You don't have to rush your way into zone, and you don't have to really, you know, cross too many teams on your rotations until you get around that third or fourth ring. Speaking of which, we're now finding
sorry guys, I
ourselves
was
towards
mentally
that second
AFK.
ring with
I'm here now.
41, and we're seeing Esports Arena having a little bit of fight at the moment, trying to fight for that most northern point on the map, but recognizing it's not the fight to be taken right now, as there is a team currently holding down that northern side, and it looks like it might be NRG who are giving them a few problems.
I'm gonna grab some water real quick.
Furia eliminated Ghost Gaming from the lobby, so another disappointing game. We'll see if they can turn things around at World's Edge as we jump on board with NRG. Speaking of disappointing performances, so far NRG with only 4 points, been relatively quiet. Glad we're catching them here so we can see how they will do, as they're obviously nearby. ESA was just in a fight moments ago. On board now is Scary, one of our LATAM teams, so if you're from Mexico or Latin America enjoying some competitive Apex, this is the team you want to cheer for. They find themselves a first pick over TSM Albrelelli of Cloud9. That's huge.
Yeah, not just the first pick. You see Naughty's gone down as well, and now it's looking like C9, who had gold in their hands after game number 1, is looking like that gold is turning to dust as they lose 2 players, and with a bow in hand, Gunjaman's trying to chase down this final player from C9. He's jumping in the Trident and getting out of dodge. That's one way to do things, but no, it's not going to happen. We haven't seen many
C9. I walk away and Cloud9 gets eliminated. What is gonna?
Record books. Put that one down on tape, VHS, DVD, whatever you want to store it on, because that will not happen too many times.
Yeah, not only just because people don't use the bow check too often, but
I've never done
that
a rig
shot will not happen too often.
But I have AC in my room, so I just turn the AC on if I'm hot.
A little scurry there from Zach Mazer, and Ganjaman connects for the headshot cross map. That was a sexy shot right there from Ganja over Zach Mazer, and Cloud9 gets taken out. I just want to take a moment to say, I saw a couple y'all trolls in the chat being like, Cloud9's so good, casters. Why didn't you pick them as a team to watch after they dominated in game 1? Obviously, they're a team to watch. We can only pick 3, and they're a very remarkable team. But this is the kind of issue I've always had with Cloud9. It's a high-risk, high-reward start type of gameplay, and how they play, they're so aggressive. They love to pick fights, and it works when it works. It works so well, but consistency has always been the issue with C9, and not the best games 2 in game number 3, unfortunately for them, but they will be just fine. They did have that pop-off game number 1 going to the World's Edge.
Yeah, the strange thing about the last 2 games for C9 is how they've died, right? It's been 2 teams late rotating actually through zone, and they just haven't been aware of it. And why would you be aware of it this late into the game? But there will be teams rotating that deep into zone and catching you off guard when you might
Are circles in the map lobos? I think they're predictions of the second circle. Unless it's a blue circle. If it's a blue circle, it's a lobo. Uh-oh. Casuals versus who? Versus... Oh, they're dead. He dead. I need to sneeze so bad. Oh, I need to sneeze.
Yeah, Caster's like, let me just leave and exit this situation. But I'm going to give a shout out to
Good night, Hidan.
Scary. I mean, they're looking scary right now. They take out Cloud9,
no.
and then they go and take out the Casuals
sneeze is
as
running
well.
away.
Very aggressive, very in your face, and so far really good for the Mexican squad. A strong start to game 3 here. The question is, can they make it to late game? Can they get some placement points? That's what we're looking to see.
I'm so annoyed.
With his tail between his legs. Meanwhile, built by gamers, BBG synced former Sinus, please. Well, they got signed. Congratulations to them. That's a great pickup from BBG. I'm a big fan of the BBG org. They get a kill here, and they're doing quietly.
He's a big fan of big booty gamers.
And they're going to have to continue with that little bit of form and try and roll it into a good week 1's performance when all of the dust is settled after our 6 games.
You want to prevent a sneeze? No, I want to sneeze. I want to sneeze.
1 and 2. Still 18 squads alive here, so a lot of work for them to do, but a good position at the northern side of the map. Rocket trying to land a few shots with
Stop stressing and shit, everything's gonna be fine.
Out of that crafter.
It's kind of hard not to stress when you're the one that has to make a decision.
At the northern side of the circle, Furia are the team who are kind of being held out by them at the moment, but they will be safe, so don't expect to see too many engagements for the next few moments or so, as we see 17 squads now.
Yeah, they're same, but there's no bright light anywhere. Maybe.
Yeah. And you know, things are slowing down a little bit. One thing I will point out here, we have a northeast finish, and typically these northern zones on Storm Point, because it's so mountainous, there's all of these fights that can take place without risk of third party. Like, you'll hear sounds, you'll get audio cues that say, I want to third party, but they're on another side of a mountain, and there's not a lot of routes. It's not a very porous type of terrain. So there's a lot of fights that you'll see take place, a lot of kind of clean 3v3.
Are you in a blowjob? Are you offering, or what?
Already a lot more aggressive of a game here than we saw in games 2 and 3.
Speaking of aggressive, here comes G-Force, so it wasn't the prettiest of Ash Olmets to use that portal to get into position, and Oxygen are just handing it to them at the moment. You see they haven't lost any players. It's been a very, very simple wipe for them. Only Protectful took any damage, really, in that fight altogether. So
they smoked them.
KP being presented here to Oxygen. They will take that all day long.
Yeah, that's huge. And obviously it's Oxygen squad. We haven't talked a lot about them. They haven't shown up a lot in games 1 and 2, but you gotta say, a huge upgrade with Aiden the Destroyer, a controller god joining this team. He was on Moners last season, and they didn't play really well as a squad, but Aiden was a standout player in my opinion. I've watched a lot of Aiden in UMG Arenas tournaments and other scenarios. Very, very talented individual, joining Protectful and Kubski, longtime teammates. You know, Kubski obviously formerly of the Flashpoint squad that used to do really well consistently in ALGS.
Practice the grapefruit technique, so you're experienced.
Games 3 through 6 years. We had to jump on board with the Charlotte Phoenix. Speaking of big pickups, Bowser, formerly of Renegades, joins the squad.
This is going to be a tough circle to try and get into. 16 squads.
I think that dotted circle that you see right here is this next circle. These blue circles are low bolts, but this dotted circle right here, I think that's like the next circle after this one.
Just watching their backs, trying to essentially prevent what has happened to C9 in the last 2 games, making sure there's no late rotators through that storm and that they're going to be comfortable.
CLG is looking really good, honestly.
Like you mentioned, mountainous areas, not a lot of different
CLG is doing well. Mamba is looking. No, he's going fine. They're looking really good here, though.
side of that
Hey
top
guys,
16
I'm crying.
spot.
What's up, Bronze? You already crying?
That's right, big fight going down right here. Greek and the Charlotte Phoenix squad going to find themselves in an engagement over Built by Gamers. They get a knock on Synced. That's a good start for them, and it looks like the rest of BBG is just going to run away and survive for now. But guess what? Teams hear the action, and this is
CLT,
third-party
CTL.
Central over just north of Stormcatcher. As Greek's going to get his health back, playing his Wraith. We haven't seen a lot of
CLG just no way. That's a CLG throw right here. Actually, nah, they can actually res here, and they got one of the best spots in my opinion. The broadcast did me dirty. What did I do? Oh, you guys died?
CLG make the rotation.
Wait, Bronze, are you playing right now?
Vatro will be able to get the battery off as well, and CLG have an end game spot here, right bang in the center of Thunderwatch.
No, I don't compete. Oh, did they use your stats or something?
You guys saw that mini map and a new UI that we get to see.
Check
There are
Twitter.
a lot of circles on that screen. They're all the blue circles.
Let me see.
Global ults.
What's in
No,
Twitter?
no. Hold that thought. A big fight. Another team trying to get the same spot that CLG already occupied. This is obviously a key spot and a key location. And
Destin Bronzy Newman. What is the highest number of kills Bronzy got in one game? 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Turbocharger attached as well, so if Manus Mamba can get this battery off and survive, he's going to be able to shred through some shields. There's 84, there's another spray, but not the damage you would have wanted. Manus Mamba in a 1v1 now. Vatro, huge for CLG. A massive shot to keep our leaders alive.
Oh my god, CLG's farming. And they're getting ported on, baby.
Vatro had 5 HP in a dream, connects for the Mastiff to the face to keep his team in this and secure 3 KP, but he's not done
1,
yet.
2, 3,
He's
or
got to go
4.
huge. The revive came through on Nano, who's able to heal back up. CLG is playing so well right now.
Bubble comes up as well.
But CLG might win this fucking tournament with the way they're playing.
He managed to just intimidate that player who was trying to get involved as well. Here comes ESA though. They've made their rotation. They've made their Valk redeploy, and now they are clearing out the top of this building.
CLG staff is liking to take that murder on their mind. Did they smoked you? They rolled and smoked your ass. Straight up. Straight up dookie down. I feel bad for you, I'm sorry.
Nuts. Charlotte Phoenix still
But then again, you know,
they heard those fights and
free
the noise
publicity, you know.
decided not to push it 'cause they like their positioning here. They're in one of the best positions.
You're not even
in the
fucking
game
playing.
to potentially close this out, similar to CLG, who got their health back, and I think
I
they
made
were in
history,
reset here.
right?
So
Yeah,
11
that's
squads
forever
left.
gonna be done.
CLG survives, but barely. I can't believe Vatro connects.
Honestly, Bronzy, they use your pick because you look good in that pick. That's what I would be telling myself. Morning time.
To the hands of Atlanta Premier.
You just see all of them dropping at once there. They will be out. They will be done. They will be preparing for World's Edge.
I wasn't paying attention because then did you really die? Yeah, they're dying right now, and Nate just got knocked.
And you can see that we're going to be moving a little bit away from the cover of Thunderwatch. So teams who are right at that northern tip are going to be pretty comfortable. CLG, who are probably thinking, oh my god, we've just made play after play.
Rocker's down as well. Nate's knocked again. Oh, this is rough, man. Only sweet up. Top 10, no reses.
Nathan has fallen as well as Rocker.
Yeah, it's gonna be Charlotte Phoenix.
This is really rough for for NG right now. They're pulling us cars, dude.
May have been either 2/3 wiped or all fully squad
They're
wiped.
pulling us cars, man.
And seeing if NRG can somehow survive. I'm not
One
sure
technician.
they're still up. I think one person survived, right? Tanza?
I'm pretty sure Sweet might still be alive. Yeah, I did see all of them being eliminated in our feed, so hopefully Sweet for NRG fans. My prediction
2 times on Wingman, kind of sacrilegious, but I'll let it slide.
He's going to be knocked. Duplex with some great shots with the 2 times on that Wingman, and not only some shots initially, but even more damage. He's going to be so tempted to jump off to finish this kill onto Phony.
Yeah, I mean, I would be tempted to. Sweet is still alive, just vibing there, just existing.
Great reserve to not dive down and look for that free KP.
Fucked up your life. What's up?
Look at all of the duress that they are under. W
Nice,
somehow
they got
still
all that.
alive. Let's go ahead and jump right into a listen in though, as ESA is finally going to eliminate W from this lobby.
ESA's got a lot of points. 7 kills this game already.
Oh, the red dot? Okay, my bad, man.
Yo, dude, we might be able to Valk ult and just land up here on the right and have, like, game-winning spot.
Right now?
Not now.
Yeah,
The
right
height
now.
is
I
in
don't
and they
see
can
anybody.
murder you. No.
I like the call.
I don't like the call at all, bro. The height's gonna smoke your ass.
There's Kraber on Ash.
No, nobody's there!
No, but because height is in, where are you gonna hide? This corner? Can they even hide here?
Rice is also
Rice,
just
thank you for
resubscribed for 19
Wait, they
months.
can actually
Mighty
hide
Kai.
here.
The
Ooh, that's a
Kraber's
Kraber. Holy shit. It actually works.
I'm
What the
good. Look
fuck?
at it. I'm good right here. Drop it like right here.
He liked the call.
Oh, that's kind
I
of
have one
fast.
too.
I got one too.
Why would he? What is Nock doing? Why is he dropping it inside the covered area? He's dropping more cover inside cover. Noct is smoking cock. What are they doing? Put it on the other side of the fence. Fuck are these guys
I
doing?
have 2 bets. You need?
No, I have 6.
If you just cannot get creepers, like, if you get creepers here, we die.
Sweetest Horizon.
I know. I'm not peeking, bro.
Oh fuck, this have a lightning rod.
That's the battle pass skin. It's the evolving skin. CLG is alive. Oh right, yeah they are. Holy shit.
I mean, there was so much surprise in their voices as well when they landed. There was like, there's no one here. Like,
CLG and ESA are like top 2 right now in this lobby, and they're both teams are alive and looking like a top 5 right now.
Game-winning spot.
Did he just TP into Storm?
You now have Atlanta Premier right at the northern side, and they are right next to ESA. They also have a Kraber. Now, like it or love it, a Kraber will certainly produce opportunities for any teams as we see that circle start to close in.
Yeah, a lot of fights going on, but quick reminder, you can watch via multi-view to check your favorite POVs out, but for now, it's Esports Arena getting a knock on AP Crook of the Atlanta Premier, so Atlanta Premier dropped right next to them.
Sweet still griefing and knocking someone from CLT.
Atlanta Premier eliminated from this lobby, only 5 squads remain.
5 squads remaining.
And he's dead finally. But holy shit, my man was grieving.
Unfortunately, not going to be able to connect for too much. Team Liquid still alive as well. NRG finally eliminated. Sweet doing God's work.
CLG died.
Kind of placement points here. Liquid,
So this is ESA is gonna take first place from overall from this.
Left side, you now have Charlotte
They should.
Phoenix trying to push up as well. The car's starting to shred through some shields. That's Team Liquid. The damage is being done to here by Bowser, but not too much ammo for him to work with. Liquid surviving.
So what ESA needs to do right here, they need to bubble on this team, on Liquid.
He hasn't got anything to work with whatsoever.
Liquid's gonna lose. Ooh.
Yeah, good luck with that AVA. Playing it a little bit as a
I don't know. CLT needs to do something. Why are they being pussies? Take over that truck. Take that head glitch. Yeah. Big booty gamers went down, but I'll go back. Sweet was fucking. Skittle has a fucking Kraber. That makes sense. Well, don't throw nades at both teams.
Takes to the skies. That Kraber
Focus
could
the
have just
team.
won them the game. He now moves in again. He hits the
Oh,
body
no
with the
scope.
Kraber. He's going to spray
Oh, he's farming. He's on controller.
He is outputting
Swap that
huge
shit.
damage here, Skittle Cakes. And with that, they will wipe Team Liquid. And more impressively,
Oh, I think they won.
wipe Team Liquid while staying alive. Nobody goes down, and they still have the Kraber.
Play the far road. How are these two teams coexisting? What is this?
Their minds right now, and they're not done yet. Skill has a wide range flank, and he gets a knock on Bowser. That is huge. That is going to
Now it's a 3v2v2.
Ice, and they almost get the kill. And now they have a
They're bubble
3v2
fighting.
v3, and they have high ground, and they have the best position on the map. ESA so well.
In my
positioned
opinion, it's
to
big
drop
booty
another
gamers.
20+ point game.
Forget about built by gamers. Because Skittle Cakes is just built different at this point. The man is not missing, and now Duplex says, hey, enough about Skittle Cakes, my teammate. I'm going to show you
Yeah,
what
they're
I can
winning.
do work as well. It's only 3
Oh,
squads
get all
remaining.
those kills, Duplex. Get them kills.
He's also got a Mastiff, does some more damage.
BBG got second, third because of this gimme. And they got all the kills. Yeah, ESA. Smoking it. They're smoking it.
They are looking scary.
Mark, ESA is on another level right now. I mean, they are literally playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They are making this look like a pub, the way they are running around the lobby, killing everyone. And again, the big brain call from Skittle Cakes is what set them up there, Mark. They rotate, they get high ground, and the fact that they're able to use that high ground to basically take out one team after another. First it was Atlanta Premier, then it was Team Liquid, and then it was BBG and the last team remaining in Charlotte Phoenix, because they're able to just slowly work their way in from high ground. I mean, again, I can't even believe that a team like NRG, Furia, so many teams that were on that northern side of the map weren't able to get that high ground positioning. Again, we didn't see what happened to them necessarily, but
Oh, it's
ESA
World Edge?
capitalizes,
Yeah.
and they do it to perfection.
The impressive thing for me is there's a lot. There's a lot of impressive things. That's impressive. That's 28 points. We'll put that to the side for just 2 seconds. as
Sweet
you
managed to
all
get
watch
4
Diamond
kills.
and read the
No,
points that have been put on the
no, he
board,
got 0
but,
kills.
I mean, the Valkyrie
But he
being
got
points towards
fifth
the
though.
spot is one thing. That's genius. That's brilliant. Finding that spot again like I mentioned, is something they just have this knack of doing. But to win team fight after team fight, when people are pressuring you without taking a knock, without anyone going down, they all stay on their feet to fight another day, is just absolutely ridiculous. The
Rish, I'm not that big on
players
Mortal games, I'm
is
not gonna lie.
outstanding. That is an outstanding score. And I don't think you're going to see too many teams put up a bigger number than 28 today.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is close to a record. I think the highest kill point we saw in all of ALGS Season 1 was 17 kills for a 29-point game. ESA right underneath that with 16. Ridiculous performance, but obviously notable on this page as well as Cloud9.
That was game 3.
Taken out early again against from the Mexican team in former Astral Esports current scary roster. So a very good start for Cloud9, and a lot of people were thinking maybe they would just run away with this, but instead it's been ESA on Storm Point. Take a look at their damage done in kills.
Holy shit, they're smoking.
Wow, almost 2k damage for each of them. Duplex as a Gibraltar, by the way, with 1700 damage.
I think there's going to be like a 10-minute break now between the games.
The controller player, and then Skittlecakes on Horizon, using the Horizon kit to perfection. You saw the black hole come through at the end there against Team Liquid, which secured them those kills. Got the Kraber knock, 6 kills, 6 assists. Wow. I mean, I'm just lost for words right now. ESA is playing so well.
That is just ridiculous. Look at those numbers on your screen at home. I mean, it's just outstanding. Almost every player on the team doing just under 2k damage is insane. Absolutely nuts from these players, and they are making it, like you mentioned, look a little bit like a pub. That game, it was just every decision they made, every team fight, every reader play, whatever it was perfect from ESA. And it's just a signal of why they are such a great team at the moment. You said they needed more respect. I couldn't agree more with you. I think they've demanded respect from everyone now. And if you don't think they're one of the best teams in the world, and you haven't for quite some time right now, quite simply, you're wrong. They are one of the best teams in the world, and they just display it game after game.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, they've demanded, they've commanded, and they've landed the respect of everyone at this point. I mean, how could you not consider this team a top 2, top 3 team in North America? I'm just excited for whenever we get that Group A versus Group B matchup. We get to see TSM against ESA. That'll be a fun one to watch. But obviously, this is all about Groups B and C. And so far, CLG been playing really, really well. We saw them come off the heels of that play from Batro in Game 3. Get a couple kill points as well. Cloud9 starting strong in Game number 1. This is just a recap of Games 1 through 3 for those that are just tuning in.
Yeah, I think Games 1, 2, 3 have all been very interesting stories, so to speak. The first game was obviously completely dominated by C9, and they looked really, really strong.
It's 1 AM right now.
Resilience from them in that in-game, great, and a little bit of trigger discipline in certain moments as well to make sure that they.
It took 2 hours to play 3 games. It's gonna take another. You know what you're mad now, much hello.
Right, CLG in games 1 and 2 put up big points that actually after those
Good
2
night,
games were done,
Stacy.
John, they ended up
Good
at the
night.
top of the
Thank you for
leaderboards
watching.
before game number 3.
That's a great point.
I think I probably did, Kalai.
CLG was actually at number 1 on the leaderboards. Obviously, that's changed now. ESA is going to be on top. But CLG's been playing really, really well. And of course, Game 2, Cloud9, really good first fight against the team that actually took them out in Game number 3. It was scary, and they get that win in the 3 versus 3, but ultimately got taken out in the rotation. Unfortunately, got a little bit choked and got taken out as a result.
Cloud9 was gonna in really good positions
amateur teams looking to make a name for themselves here in Pro League.
in every game, but yeah.
Morning,
Daniel.
The wardrobe and scaring them as they came out of zone to pick up those.
Okay, I gotta stop yawning, bro.
This was the end game from our game number 2. Furia doing a good job to work their way in towards it. Unfortunately, they couldn't quite capitalize at the end, but once again, we're going to see the POV of ESA, and they will be in the God spot, they will be in their shots, and they'll be picking up that win. And it was a very similar story here in match number 3, John.
Yeah, it was. Match number 3, similar story, different zone. We've got a northeast zone for the first time versus our east and southern zones we saw in games 1 and 2. Scary was looking really scary. That was that Bocek shot on Zach Mazer we saw from Donjamin in the early game. And then, of course, Charlotte Phoenix did a really, really good job kind of turtling up and holding Thunderwatch very, very well. And here's this play from CLG. I'm glad we're going to have a chance to run this back. 2 members down. Batro's last alive. Look at this. Connects for the Mastiff to the face. 74 damage to stay alive with only 4 HP left.
Yeah, the definition of a crunching shot there coming in. And then we're going to see Ganjaman again with the Bocek. It's his weapon of choice by the looks of things. Mastiff doing a pretty good job for him as well. But it was this endgame, right? A lot of teams, like you mentioned, were stacked up in the middle of the map, and they were all stacked up around Thunderwatch, but it was that pull away to the north that really kind of caught a lot of teams off guard, it seems. But there's only so much room for teams on the northern side of it. Esports Arena timed that redeploy perfectly, and then more importantly, just cleaned up when it came to those final fights. 56 points now in our overall leaderboards, John. I mean, that is a gap already established at the top between them and CLG.
Yeah, huge. Obviously, we talked a lot about ESA, CLG, and Cloud9, but built by gamers.
What's up, Mads?
Really well. Very consistently in the top 7.
Is the stream auto sync with the audio? What do you mean?
Their plea to get signed finally got signed by BBG, and they're performing
Think
with
we're
the
good.
BBG banner right now. 4th place going into World's Edge, actually tied with Cloud9.
It's not match point. No. This is 6 games, and you play 6 games, and after 6 games, it's whatever you finish.
Between them and Esports Arena has been execution towards their end games. One thing to get into a good spot is one thing to command the spot and deal with the other teams around you, and ESA have just been doing that better than anyone, not just maybe today, but over the last few months or so of ALGS competition that we have seen. A better performance from NRG jumps them up 3 spots, but it was a kind of desperate play from Sweet towards the end as a solo player to get them some sort of points on the board, but I think they've certainly got to step it up as we now move away from Storm Point and we move back towards the fan favourite, and I'm sure a lot of players' favourite as well, and certainly my favourite, just in case you were wondering, is of course World's Edge.
Yeah, I'm excited for World's Edge here because we're doing a map switch for those that are curious. Obviously, we do have, for the first time in a long time, 2 maps in competitive Apex, reminiscent of the Kings Canyon and World's Edge days that we saw early on, but now we'll have Storm Point and World's Edge. So that means games 4, 5, and 6. We'll be making a switch over, so we'll see different team comps, obviously different drop spots, different ways in which teams play, and different teams get to shine, right? I mean, a team like NRG knows World's Edge so damn well. So you can expect a potential, I don't want to say it's going to happen, I'm just going to throw it out there into the universe, a potential dominant games 4, 5, and 6 from NRG because really World's Edge is their dojo, let's just be honest.
Yeah, it certainly is, but at the same time, so it's ESA's dojo, right? It's where they made their name. One of my questions coming in today was like, okay, ESA made their name on World's Edge, they've looked really dominant, they seem to have everything they want to have nailed down on that map. What are they going to be like on Storm Point? Are they going to be able to recreate that? Yeah, they are. and then some. It's almost looking like Storm Point is their home ground at the moment, and World's Edge is just going to be their playground. So I'm looking forward to seeing ESA continue this run. I think they've been setting the standard for sure today. But for other teams in the chasing pack, they've got to make it happen pretty quickly, because 1-2 points, as we know in the Pro League format, 1 placement point can mean a big difference when it comes down to the final points at the end of things. So it's going to be a nervy final 3 games, I think, for a lot of the teams who are outside of that top 3 or so.
Yo, what's happening?
Yeah,
In
I just want to say, if I would have told you that the
When is Scars playing? Scars is not playing. We're not going to be playing for a while.
In groups B versus C day 1, you probably would have told me I was absolutely insane. But that's the situation. Shot to LMK, Casuals, and Scary playing really, really well and ahead of the GOATs, the second place runner-up team from Split 1 playoffs at NRG. But hey, Game 4 is about to be loaded. We're about to be there in just a second. But I want to take a moment to give a massive, massive plug for the VOD series and content that exists in general, by the way. The youtube.com/playapex esports has silently been producing some of the best content I've seen in esports.
No, Zelfish, today is one lobby, tomorrow is another lobby.
Myself had a chance to do kind of a Let's Play series, and honestly, the best way to put it, it was like a podcast meets gameplay right in the middle, and I've been a lot of great comments, a lot of great feedback so far. So 25 minutes, purely entertaining. I put them on a hot seat, asked them type of questions such as, who's the best player in Apex, who's the most underrated player, who's the worst player in Apex. We got some truth in a tell-all type of format. Make sure to check that out. Make sure to follow us on all things social as well. Twitter.com/playapex-esports. I just mentioned all the YouTube content. YouTube.com/playapex-esports, where you can see that pilot episode with Zach Mazer, Monsoon, and myself. And then, of course, hit the follow button on Twitch, twitch.tv/playapex, so you can keep up with all things competitive Apex Legends. But for now, that's going to be it for Mark and I as we take a little bit of a break before we get ready for game number 4 on World's Edge. It's right around the corner, and we'll be back right after this.
Love this one.
Give me fried.
I'm selling. Heal up, Skittles.
I'm batting. All you knocked.
He sounds like Tashin when Tashin was yelling at me.
Go for knocks. I don't see any knocks.
In ALGS Championship, I was full health and Tashin was yelling at me, "Heal up, RPR, heal up, heal up, heal." And I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna heal? I'm 200 health. And then I went and fucking killed. I poured it on them, killed the guy, and we won the tournament. That was really fun. I would say probably 67. B. I would say B. What is that fish? Oh wait, you guys can't even see. Well, right here, B, it says 67. Top right. Philip Doshin. It's 78. I was wrong. Sunshine, arigato. We can't see Q either. Basically, how many knockdowns did Imperial Hall got during the last split? Hi, Quarigato. How many knockdowns do you think Papa got there in the last split? He got 56. How many headshots did Lucas hit on average in the last split? 1, 1.8, 1.6, 3.5. I have a feeling it's 3.5 because I'm pretty sure Lucas is a controller player. So, it's 1.6, never mind.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for game number 4. It is Rain Day and Vicky Kitty to bring it to you. And if you've been enjoying a little bit of those teaser questions to keep you entertained, I got a question. How many times in the last split did Vicky mention something about caustic? Is it 7,250, 7,253, or 7,251? You guys let us know, and of course, if you're watching closely, we should have a prize for you. I don't know, Vicky. What do you think?
I think James Bardoff is going to get that answer correctly, for sure. But you know what I am excited for? With those nerfs, what does that mean for the composition change that we're going to see as we move on to World's Edge for game number 4?
Well, that's the biggest question for me. And I was going to ask you first because, you know, this could go either way. For me, I look at it in terms of a game plan. If I'm running a team, I'm going to say, guys, here's our plan for World's Edge. We've scrimmed. Here's our plan for Storm Point. And we stick to it. But inevitably, Vicky, if you're doing well and if you're popping off like ESA or you're having great games like CLG, there's going to be the tendency to not want to adjust. And maybe you wouldn't naturally play the Horizon on World's Edge. That might not be a part of your plan. But you might go, it's just working so well. Why fix it if it isn't broken? So what do you think? You think teams are going to lean back on what's working, especially on the top end? Or do you think we'll start to see those Horizons, maybe some of those flex picks, start to shift away back towards the Wraith, towards the Ashe a little bit more traditionally?
Either we're going to see that change or we're going to see the consistency with the comfortability that these teams are feeling making this transition over to World's Edge. I do remember during the playoffs that Sweet was kind of playing off of the Loba very consistently.
Could you pull up the typing test? Sorry, no, I'm talking about something about debut related to a friend, and also Lamb has been sending some messages in the group chat, so I'm trying to see what Lamb is saying. I think from what it looks like right now, it might even be delayed for the debut.
For ESA. I know Follow, he had called this out, and for a good reason. This is a team that has just integrated not so well, has built up this synergy. CLG, in my opinion, I feel like has really shined on Stormpoint, but can they keep that up going into World's Edge, and is it going to be enough to even contend with Esports Arena sitting at 56 points?
Well, you never know. I mean, this is something that happens in sports and with esports quite often, where you get an infusion of a new player due to a 3-team swap, and that new player almost takes it out on the old team, saying, "You're really going to get rid of me? You really don't think I'm the right fit? Well, here we go. Let me show you what
Basically,
I can
the
do."
problem
And,
is
you know,
that
maybe an overperformance from ESA. Obviously,
Lamb. So Lamb usually uses an assistant to help him with partitioning his art for like partitioning his art for live 2D, right? Which is a lot of work because Lamb is very busy. He doesn't have, you know, enough time to fit it all. So he usually uses an assistant that helps him with that. But right now his assistant can't help him, which means that Lamb has to do it himself, which means it's gonna take a lot longer if it's gonna end up turning like that, unless he finds someone else that can assist. And Kefi can't do it himself because Kefi has other obligations. Other than rigging my stuff, he has to rig other people's stuff that he already took, you know? So he can't add more workload. Morning, Midman. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Lamb finds an assistant that can actually help him. Fuck.
While now getting a little bit more comfortable with where we like to rotate, how we like to play, and of course, the end games, which they have not made it to yet. And of course, these teams dominating this way, it's been a tale of maybe the first half of a tournament that could have a very different ending. We might be hitting more of the dark side of things for certain teams, Vicky, and we might be hitting the upside, the bright side for other teams, depending on how they tackle game number 4. What is, in your mind, as we get ready to load into this one, the most important thing to do for teams to start out here in Game 4 in the back half of the tournament?
I feel like it's just transitioning to the fact that this is not Stormpoint, and a lot of those rotations don't need to be done as quick as we had seen on Stormpoint. We saw a lot of teams stick within the ring for a reason, and it's those slow rotations that allow these teams to catch other edge guarding teams off guard, because you have a lot of these teams that really want to stick to the edge of the circle, but then they find themselves getting thirded by a squad who is making their rotation already from outside the ring. That's not going to happen as often here on World's Edge, so I think getting used to that transition is going to be very important. But Rain, my favorite game usually is game number 5, because that is the make it or break it. A lot of our teams already figure out how many points they need to secure, how aggressive can they get, and we've been seeing so far within our last few games, these games kind of start off very slow, and then they start to pick up when they have the opportunity. So now you have to make that transition once again, but this time on World's Edge.
I think they start to pick up once teams realize, oh crap, what are we going to do?
Good morning, Kyo-chan.
Do something now. It's game 5.
I like the split limiter. I think the split is really nice. Honestly, man, I'm gonna be real with you, chat. I'm pretty fucking tired of one map.
Saying, wait a second, this is it. This is all I got. I only got 2 more games here. Oh my god, I've been wasting my time.
Pretty fucking tired of like just one map
considering Stormpoint started off a little
in LGS.
Absolutely right to kick things off very, very quickly. But game 4 will be a little different. I feel that we're going to go into this matchup.
Just give us more map.
Feeling each other out right now. I think we will see 1 or 2 teams get very aggressive. I think we'll get to 17 squads remaining within the first 5 minutes or so. But I honestly do think that we will have a 10 to 14 squad zone 4, zone 5 final circle where teams are like, hey, this one matters. We've got to make something happen now.
Yeah, and you know, with Furia as well running the Bloodhound, you could expect perhaps more Bloodhound being played into the mix. I mean, we saw the Bloodhound getting replaced by the Valk, by the way, which is why Furia is not running the Valk, because that beacon scan character is going to be the Bloodhound there. And it could be risky, especially on Stormpoint, but it's not as risky on World's Edge. So with some of these potential composition changes and just trying to adjust going from Stormpoint into World's Edge.
Which map? I think Stormpoint is really good. I don't know about Olympus. I wouldn't mind playing KC. I know that might be a little bit controversial, but I think KC as a map, there's not much problem to it other than the loot being really bad. If they actually buff the loot, so it's like Olympus, so there's actually good loot on KC, like that map would be very playable in competitive. What's up, Burgundy?
It's been weird to look at Bloodhound be such a staple in the meta as far as a lot of aggressive play.
I really don't like the KC map changes they've done overall.
Vital for a team to succeed in these team fights. Now drop to the wayside in favor of the Valkyrie Gibraltar stability, and then your flex on the Ash, your flex on the Bloodhound, something like that. But
it's like it feels like they've taken a part of the map and then added it on another part of the map where honestly didn't need that. They should have kept this part of the map and added that part of the map instead of taking something away, adding something else. Because what Casey needed was just a little bit more space.
Save some electricity and go finish binge watching something on Netflix, because you need to be here doing something now, Vicky. It is do or die as we switch maps. 3 games to go. Some teams at the bottom, this is their last chance. Some teams at the top, well, can they keep it going and make history with an epic performance? We'll find out here as the dropship takes us over this beautiful, beautiful spot where we played so much competitive Apex over the year.
Oh, this is where all those memories have been made. And ESA, they're taking over not Big Mud, but all of Lava City, all at the same time. So much loot for this team as they make their rotation, but they do have some intel on another team up ahead. Looking to see if they have a beacon here, maybe that they can work off of, but not necessary here. Maybe at Big Mod if they can make those quick rotations. But this is what I've always wondered, Rain, where ESA, since the very beginning, even when Burholz was part of this roster.
Okay, so ESA is in first place by like what, 20 points, Chad?
Off of Lava City, off of Big Mud, and now they're going to be able to get this quick rotation.
When we have...
Yeah, wow, all the way down to the bottom. This is beautiful.
Oh, dude, energy is already moving. They're already rotating. Holy shit, it's all nothing but South Zones on World's Edge, right?
A little bit less of a frequency in high-level Apex for whatever reason, and those southern circles.
Oh yeah, I mean, the ranked is terrible in KC, but it works for comp.
The lava thermal station or lava siphon. We're going to see a lot of success. And Ganjamin, one of the players who was in our featured highlights in match 3.
South Zones again, man. Nothing changed, huh?
Here as well as we take a look at NRG Esports Arena, Cloud9, built by gamers, some of our top teams right now heading into this one in C9. A big mod, looking to get a big mod in a positive way onto their loot so they can head into the big game.
Now, seeing at where this circle is going to be pulling towards that southern side of Launchite, it's almost like I'm getting deja vu, like we're still here at the playoffs rated. That was that last game that we had seen TSM pop off in originally. Very similar circle, looking like it's going to encapsulate the eggshell right outside of Dome. We're going to have to see later down the line as ESA, they are going to be able to loot up nicely. There was a team that also landed at Geyser, so that's going to be that next team that they have to keep their eyes out for when it comes to their next rotation.
Esports Arena. Skittles on the Caustic. Going to see that play. One of the few in the lobby. We see Onmu and Vaxlon Scurry.
Hey, always.
On the Ash, Valkyrie, and Gibraltar. No changes there.
Is Casey coming back to comp? No, not for now. Oh.
Here, rocking an alternator early on. Not hitting a lot of shots, managing the movement though.
Optimal ambition.
Seems like they would have an understanding that this is going their way, because I don't see nades approaching this fight with any level of concern. And
they're running around with 5 health. Like, why is Valkyrie chasing this guy? He's 5 health. Yeah, welcome to World's Edge. Crypto out, baby.
Now they're going to be able to take over the construction building as well. And they're also going to have that weekend, so a great start here for OA. And
I love playing KC in competitive. I thought it was great. Maybe because we were really good at KC, and we won tournaments in KC. Well, my favorite tournament we've ever won was on KC. Obviously, championship. I loved winning championship because championship we dominated. Like we came and we dominated. There was no question ever if we're not gonna win championship during the play. It was obvious from like game 1 that championship was gonna be our win. No one was even close, right? It was just a complete domination, right? But my favorite win by far is summer circuit of GLL, where we as an entire team pulled off such an insane clutch that it was unbelievable. Alliance right behind our ass, 2 points behind us. We pull off like this crazy clutch where Mande gets knocked mid-air. IQ to him as Raid, res him, we wipe everyone, we kill Alliance in top 3. And we're fighting LG and they have 2 knocked, and we finished the 2 knocks on the ground and then killed the last guy. And those 2 knocks that we finished won us the tournament by 2 points. If we didn't finish them, we would be tied with Alliance and we would lose on tiebreaker. Which was like the biggest fucking clutch ever. And that was after like that was a 16 game final, I believe. It was 8 games on 2 days, 8 and 8. When are we playing next? We don't know, because ALGS is postponed in EU due to the Ukraine-Russia situation. Favorite comp meta? Watson, Pathfinder Raid was my favorite. It will always be my favorite. There was just more method to the madness during that meta. Why the view pulsing? I don't know. Something bugged out.
That slowdown, though, I like what I'm seeing here from a lot of our teams, just trying to prioritize that loot. Obviously, something that our Lova squads don't really have to worry about.
Yeah, right now we don't even know. You know what might happen, chat, is that
nice gold backpack for fun as well, so that's going to be very important here, as they are going to start making their rotation shortly. And look how many squads already on the other side of that rock formation. A team just trying to leave through landslide, and with the circle just coming up from right behind them, they have to make their way over to that southern part of the map, because again, that's where that circle towards.
Right now, the one thing that might happen, chat, is that like we are postponed for now, and then when we do end up playing, we're probably gonna play like 6 days in like 2 weeks or something. You know what I mean? They told us to be prepared to play during the week, not only on the weekend. So what might happen is that like we'll play like 3 days in 1 week and 3 days in another week. So we'll have like 36 games in 2 weeks or something.
Will it be the same impact Verholz had on TSM? Still remains to be seen on that one, and big shoes to fill there for the immediacy of Evan being.
Some people have jobs though. Yeah, but this is kind of like
a lot of fun to watch to see how these next 3 games
uncontrollable situations.
Stay naughty and Zach on purples as they continue their rotation, trying to find a better spot.
It's kind of like an uncontrollable situation because of the war. Sounds so taxing. It's not very fun now. You guys know after that fucking 2 weeks I will be taking a fucking break. I will be taking my break and I'll be relaxing.
Getting all 3 players up to that high ground, but again, that's just actually more damage that was done to more players as they faced an onslaught of bullets that has forced them to turn away and say, let's find maybe a less traffic area to move.
It's just gonna be, I'm not gonna mold, it's just gonna be a lot of work. Yeah, non-stop. It's gonna be stressful. Very, very stressful.
I like this option to just disengage here instead of trying to fully send it. Not only did they lose the initial trade, but that's Ghost Gaming up there. And Ghost usually landing Geyser, and ESA is not in the area right now. They could have started rotating up towards the south of Lava.
What's your mindset? Chill until you have confirmation of dates, or do you like Grand Rank Hard of Stream? My mindset is to just stream. I'll just stream and wait for news. I'll watch all the other teams play and study VODs and play some ranked and just wait until we play. There's nothing else I can do. So might as well stream. Must have not approved you taking a break. Yeah. All the mods, if they want, the mods don't want me to pay a break, they should give 2,000 subs.
You've got 20 seconds before you can use that again. Might have allowed you to survive some of those things. So little details, obviously, showing a good performance overall on the day. But those are the types of things, if you're watching at home, that can make the difference in these trades at such a high level. Having that ability on cooldown or not.
I'm poor, fuck off. Well, then I take a break. Simple as that.
To be able to win a fight or disengage like they got to.
That's all that micromanaging. Meanwhile, Energy playing things a lot slower, and Sweet is on the Loba, by the way, so they did go for that composition change. That was that observation that I noticed, that Sweet really liked the Loba during the playoffs. It really worked out for them there, and they are sticking to it. And this position could be tricky because you never know when that squad on the other side by tree could take that zip line to get onto the higher ground, and that could be extremely scary for Energy if they're caught off guard on that low ground in that disadvantage. So Sweet, not taking any chances, immediately gets up on the high ground despite taking some shots without the shield.
Burgundy, I don't know. We've never played that many games in 2 weeks. So I don't know if it will affect us or not.
Because I thought we might have 2 more teams dead by this amount
Tips
of
for
time.
diamond lobbies?
Seems like maybe a
I don't know,
little bit
man.
more cautiousness is going on for these teams, and NRG seem to be at the
I really don't know.
helm of it.
I don't really have tips for people who are asking for tips for rank.
On the Loba as they look to get into round number 3.
Man and Tashin were arguing by the end of split 1. That was a very extreme situation though. It was a playoff when we couldn't get anything to work. And it was just overall a bad vibe. And it was a meta that we hated. We hated playing the meta that it was like the caustic meta. We absolutely hated playing it. And we couldn't get any fights that we took. We couldn't finish off. We just kept losing to the caustic barrels after winning a fight.
Hopefully someone fucking fights.
This guy's out. Right here.
Basically, we kept like just caustic meta just hard counters us because we're a team that fights a lot and we rely on our fights to like we win our fights to win games, right? We don't win games without fights. Like we always win our fights, and we kept getting caustic, which is impossible to fight unless you play caustic, and we didn't play caustic, which is obviously a mistake. So yeah, it's fucking, you know, and that affected our mental a lot because we felt like we couldn't do anything, like the game is against us, and then they started fighting. But we always talk out everything after tourneys, and we have a really good relationship. I mean, we've been a team for 2.5 years, so
Oh, right here. It's coming behind
almost 2.5 years. So we've never. That was our first argument in 2 years, or which wasn't even my argument. It was their first argument in 2 years.
Speaking a lot louder than words. NRG.
Damn, Liquid's dying.
A bit tense, and Team
What's up,
Liquid
17?
keep joining them with that same feel because Gurley just trying to get out of a pretty tiresome situation, and you could see Ready with Ghost Gaming taking
Lematador, it's not that we weren't fighting, it's just that we couldn't fight. We tried to fight so often, and we just couldn't. Because wherever you go, there's a barrel in your face, and they just fucking delay. And then after you get rid of the barrels, they throw a caustic ult, and then they win that spot on default because you can't do anything against the caustic ult. You can't tank it while the enemy is pushing you. So you basically lose so much positioning on like one ability. It's like so bad.
You see the conversations around conserving ammo, and really nothing else being spoken about. G-Force, James Fearless. One of the characters that he's been playing over the last few weeks is Bangalore. Not seeing the introduction there. I'm sure Shiv FPS in the chat, if he's still watching, is remiss to not see the beloved main being showcased here in the Pro League like he has done for so long in EMEA, but still, nevertheless, Mooney, Slurpee G, James Fearless alive, fighting NRG, and look at this, Furia coming around the edge. Could they somehow pinch this, put NRG in the middle of a sandwich?
the Valktac actually let Furia know that there is nobody on that high ground platform, so that's just going to be free real estate for Furia to keep up and get on top of to pressure energy.
We're gonna keep the same complement order. It's just that we're gonna change to Ash on Storm Point, and we're gonna play Wraith on World's Edge. But I am thinking of replacing Wraith with Loba on World's Edge, because all the zones go south and we have to move really fast, which makes us not loot anything. So maybe Loba is the play for us instead of Wraith, because we literally have to move. Like, we land and we have to move because we don't ever get zone.
Disappointed to have not seen the fuse on the Storm Point, and I think this is a great choice.
Like, we never get to fucking do anything.
Coming into Furia, and you've seen Hakulo use the fuse. I wasn't sure if it was just a lack of comfortability going back to you know, character choices that maybe allow them to feel more in line with how
Energy is landing on boxes of loot.
Really excited to see what they can do.
Hopefully they don't get Kraber. Hopefully. Malice Mamba, you fucking suck with that thing. That was a free kill. But good for Energy.
Second place here in the overall leaderboard.
You would think that I'm the one holding the Kraber, holding my breath here as I see Malice Mamba just waiting to take those shots.
Bro.
Not landing them, unfortunately, coming close to it as they do.
He's a controller player, right?
Behind them, having to be careful. They don't want to find themselves getting sandwiched. It's a good spot to try to contest these teams who are trying to funnel right outside of zone right here, right outside of Lava Siphon.
What's it simply?
Sometimes end in this spot alone, but this is a great spot.
Opinion Shiv playing Banga. Hey, Shiv can play whatever everyone fucking thank Jesus. Woo, he hit a guy standing still. Let's go! Finally, he hit a guy standing still.
That's why it's the best in the business. Slurpee G looks like he doesn't have long to live. Will the missile swarm pick him up? It will. Oh, that's a cleanup for sure. CLG doing what they
Poor guy's whisper caught. I mean, bro, that if you have Kraber, bro, you have to make sure you give it to the person that's the best with it. That's why we always give it to Mamba. There's that sneeze that ran away from you earlier. Holy shit. It was like an hour. An hour delay between the sneeze.
I mean, clear command right here, and this is the difference. You know, you're going to be able to clear out this entire backside if you want. Put so much pressure on these Kraber shots, and they're still
missing it. Poor guy that he gets all of this caught on fucking cam, dude. You can see how not confident he is. Like, he's never taken a shot. Finally.
To be able to do it as well. Another big shot from Mamba, and he keeps the tempo alive for CLG as they are getting better.
That one thing I know for sure, chat, is if I give a Kraber to Mande, we are fucking hitting. You know. Finally, let's fucking go. Some confidence in this bitch. One in error. Yeah, whenever I give Mande a Kraber, I just know he's hitting a heady. Someone is getting headed somewhere. Oh no. What was that redeploy?
Can he keep this up with one of his teammates going down? No, he's out of there. He's out of this. This is none of his business.
Oh, he's dead. He's not out of anywhere.
Bracelet, it was a beautiful attempt at an Ash tether, but you can't tether the Loba, and that's the problem there. So it was a great moment to see literally vibing.
Mande is by far the best Kraber player in the entirety of LGS. The only person that gets remotely close to Mande is Sweet.
His final moment. He has gone down. Huge plays.
And the removed mythology. It needs to get removed completely.
The vibing of CLG.
But I think it's undeniably. Ooh, Energy's farming. Energy's alive. I think. Oh, Sweet gets a Kraber now, I think undeniably Mande is the best Kraber in LGS. No one can beat Mande with the Kraber. I don't think anyone gets even close. Like, he hits shots. When we get Kraber, it's pretty much a one game for us.
Not great position, but they've got the Loba, and so that means resources aplenty. And again, in about a minute and a half, he's going to have it back up
Rocker.
one more time. But right now, going down before he can get it up is Rocker. Sweetie falls as well, and it's just Nathan. To get the revive, that's one thing to ask, but to get revive both and survive these next 30 seconds, that's almost too much for anybody. Nathan's gonna go down.
Fuck, that sucks for NRG because they had Kraber, bro, with like 6 bullets.
Like they could have been turning up the heat. Can we talk about God, how do they keep doing it? And with the rampage on top of that, that's gonna be
Wingman,
so
what's my
much
second
pressure from this
go-to?
position that ESA is
Flatline or 301? Ohio Arpar. I also really like Flatline 301, R9. I like SMGs on raid. But usually Flatline 301, if not Wingman.
Cousin's a local near where I live. He says, "Say what up." Tell him the cousin wishes him some good luck. I see him at the coffee shop. Well, he doesn't need it right now, my man. He is already
Usually I'd always play either Flatline or Wingman, depending on what I find. But Flatline's the crafter now, so. Car SMG is also really good.
That's how you know it's not by accident. But there's still C9 hanging around as well, and this is a big.
How hard is Holland gonna be streaming tomorrow? I don't know, man. They're riding off of good vibes. I think they might be chill.
So I would be very
Rocker face checking him while medkitting is going in the water view for sure. I don't really know what Rocker could have done better there. I mean, he's kind of like wherever he pops that medkit, he dies. Maybe he plays on Sweet, but was Sweet really safe? Yeah, of course, Lamater. Yeah, it's kind of like wherever Rocker goes, he kind of fucking, if he gets looked at, he dies. Oh, ESA is just fucking consistently in top 5, dude. They're gonna win this one. Who is that? Tell me that's Mac. Tell me that's Mac. Yeah, I just fucking knew it, dude. Only Mac would do something that psychotic. Holy shit, Skills cannot fucking die. This guy's fucking everyone in the brain. 7 kills. He's playing Caustic though, so he stinks like really bad.
Performance from ESA, Vicky, and it looks like it's only getting better.
Yeah, I know. He's getting fucking.
Because he has been popping off all day long. He's forced to reset real quick here as ESA. They back off.
They don't even have time to reset. Just give them some time to pop some medkits.
Ghost is finding the opportunity as they make their way outside of the dome here, but
and they have ESA has best spot in zone with Caustic.
And if you guys want to take a look at this action, not just from this one POV we're following, but from multiple, check out multi-view. It's an option now in the ALGS.
Fuck a multi-view, that shit lag.
Multiple streams of your favorite streamers and teams at the same time to get every single perspective. But if you watch this, you're going to see also
is Skittle a controller player? I really wonder.
Not knowing where other teams
I never remember that.
to use their game sense and their awareness, and boy, oh boy.
He's laughing, Mac screaming at Zach. I mean, Mac kind of got left alone in that bubble fight. Like, he bubbled and he had no teammates, so he just got 3v1. Ooh!
Get out of that one. And that was Ghost Gaming's attempt, but they just get hit right back with a big arc.
Huge arcs are breaking.
Not a control player?
They can't give up this spot right here. They'll be in the line of sight.
Oh, he's a mechanic. Okay.
They understand the situation. They need to wait. They need to play this patiently. 3 squads left.
Wait, Duplex is also a Master Keeper player? Really? What are they gonna do here? They have to like bubble across this lava on the left and push Rakinishu.
This is really tough for ESA because it seems like they're going to be forced to fight casuals.
High sense of any pro I've seen. I'm pretty sure Hotsig or Frex probably beat him, dude. But Frex is now a control player. I'm pretty sure Hotsig or Frex had like 600 DPI with like a 4 or something. Something crazy. Was the bubble necessary? Not really, man. And ESA is gonna win. Yeah, ESA is gonna win this. Finish them on the ground. Finish on the ground. Yeah, they got everything. They got everything. Holy shit. There's no way they don't win this tournament.
Wow. What am I seeing? This isn't just caustic play. This is game play. This is pro play.
Pretty much won the day by now. Now it's just fight for second place.
Done in Apex Legends. The ALGS is seeing a performance maybe to remember here as far as a team in a single tournament. ESA have dominated in a way that, man, especially going off meta, especially going maybe underdog in the lobby, and especially going new
18 kills.
wouldn't have expected to see a 30
it's raps, dude.
Man, what's happening, but this is unheard of.
That is insane. That is
Yeah, it's raps, bro. No one can win but them. They pretty much won. They could literally go get some tea, bro. The other teams are literally fighting for second place. They can go get a cup of coffee, not even play the last 2 games, and they're just walking away with first place.
No wonder Millionth Tech could be a little upset here because Skittle Cakes is absolutely popping off today.
We can straight up just say, eh, fuck it. Yeah, we're done today. I can go to bed now. Yeah, I know who won. I can go Nana.
And now they've had to add a couple of other players to hold that time. Now they've got Nox coming in, and it seems like maybe that was the thing that has made the difference. And it seems like there's an energy that Nox is bringing. It seems like there's a stability that we're seeing Duplex and Skittle Cakes have in general. But man, Logan, Ira, William, y'all are on fire, and I don't know if anyone can put it out right now.
Look at that, Nox with 2,000 damage, 2.2k in general. The cleanup 2 from Skittle Cakes. Can we talk about that Nox gas though? The Nox grenade just funneling so many of these players out from their just natural cover that last circle was able to provide, but also the quick gas traps that Skittle Cakes was able to set up, not only to add in some of that extra pressure, but as makeshift cover for the rest of this squad.
Well, Casuals and Ghost Gaming were forced to fight each other, and it's because of Skittles' incredible ultimate that would have forced the entirety of Casuals to most likely run through this gas if they wanted to fight and take what was the primary safest end zone area, which is below on that lava with the rocks behind you to be able to climb up and not get exposed. And just by that ultimate was able to really turn the tide.
I mean, this is raps, right?
Be in a great spot. We're the team that's going to get third party. Let's switch that narrative. And the fast thinking, but the execution, and also doing it with a legend that has been nerfed, that isn't a part of the mainstays of the season. If this point difference doesn't showcase you how excellent every decision they've been making is, there really isn't anything that is going to change your mind. I mean, it's almost double the score of second place. In fact, it's more than double the score of second place.
What do you even do in this situation when there's 2 games left right there? I mean, CLG with 39 points. We were highlighting CLG before on Storm Point. I love their rotations. I love the approach that they have towards these final circles, and they've been doing a great job. But this gap that Esports Arena has made for themselves in first place, I mean, wrap it up. Unless some of these squads could get things different, kind of just approach game number 5 and 6 with a different look, I do not see this score changing much with ESA just getting stronger and stronger by the game.
No, I think ESA can literally not play the next 2 games and still win this tournament. And I've almost never thought that about a game heading into game 5 and 6 in an Apex tournament. And that just shows you that they're on record pace. I mean, we could be seeing 120, 130 points at this point. And I don't know what the biggest score is in 6 games.
They literally can get 0 points next 2 games. The other teams, like this team in second place, has to win both games with a stupid amount of kills. Like a stupid amount of kills they need to catch up to Esports Arena right now.
I'm more so impressed at how dominant that they've been taking these lobbies. Also, 3 wins
She funds to it.
while maintaining double-digit kills.
What is funds to it?
That is not easy. This is the ALGS we're talking about right now. These are our pro players here coming out to shine. Meanwhile, ESA is cleaning up almost half the lobby out here.
Yeah, and it's the benefit of the Valkyrie and these amazing ultimates, getting that Caustic to late game. We talked about Caustic
Fun
being a
FPS.
late game, winning machine. If you get him to late game, he's going to do the job for you. But you got to make the right decisions. And it's a guy like Skittle Cakes who's been such a big part of this team.
Oh yeah, Bronzy's fucking thing. Yeah, this show's hilarious.
This is pro level at the highest level, and I love it. We got game 5 coming up to see what continues with this ESA saga. Are they on record-breaking pace? That's for sure. Where will they end?
Mano, what are you typing, man? I hate when people come in here. They see like why do you guys relate hentai to anime instantly? What do you think? Why do you guys think it's okay to talk? Because someone likes anime, why do you guys think that someone who likes anime is comfortable but talking about hentai? Like what? Like, do you go to other people's fucking stream and just be like, hey, you wanna watch porn together? Like, you don't do fucking that. Like, who the fuck does that? You don't go to someone's stream and ask them about, yeah, hey, do you watch porn? Like, why is that such a thing? Like, why do people fucking think that's okay to ask? Like, I'm gonna even fucking answer, you know? It's just fucking annoying to see, like. Money matter. Yeah, I know. I just don't think like why do like what's the point of that question? You watch Star Wars, yeah. Like, do we these days just talk about like what kind of porn we watch live on the stream? I mean, I don't, but is that like a meta? I don't know. I was on a date with a girl last week and she made me watch porn with her. She just wanted you to bang her, Krecheska. XQC did last week. Okay, well maybe for XQC it's normal, not for me, man. I don't really talk about porn in my stream, like I don't really care about porn. I don't even watch porn. Oh, it's Hambino, dude. Look, they use this fucking VTuber avatar instead of his IRL picture, and they doxed his name. Cameron. You're a himbo? What is a himbo? What does a himbo mean? What? You have to Google? Oh, okay, I'm Googling it. A good-looking but unintelligent young man. Oh, it's like a male bimbo. Is it true that Rig is dropping templates? Well, they already dropped them. Wait, so why is bimbo a blocked word in my chat?
North American Pro League. This is the kickoff for the Split 1 NA Pro League, and what a kickoff it's been, Mark. ESA playing
Like what?
insane at this point.
Is bimbo an offensive word?
On track to set a record in terms of most points scored in ALGS so far.
Yeah, I was being silly.
Did I miss something?
Shut the fuck up.
Caddy 6 months.
KD20 just resubscribed for 6 months. Sup, boss.
ESA all day. They have been dominant, and it's just been crazy to watch. Like it has been. It just looks.
That
so
means I'm a
simple.
bimbo.
Every single
Hey,
game,
you
it's
said it.
oh, there's a fight going down. They look like a little bit of a disadvantage. Skill case almost sticks 3 people just to keep them alive in a few seconds.
I can't believe you didn't get the hint, Krecheska. If a girl watches porn with you, what do you think she wants?
It's a Nox gas.
You think she wants she wants to chat?
The team out, whether it's just a couple of barrels being thrown down to throw a little bit of protection in the way, whether it's the armor, whether the shots in the end, everything they are doing is just working out absolutely too.
She's like, yay, let's watch porn and just sit here and do nothing. Just stare at each other while we watch porn.
The crazy thing is we still have 2 games to go. There's still 2 games of Apex Legends to play.
Yeah, and they already
Let's
have
watch other people fuck each other naked. You and me on a date. Watch other people fuck each other. Understand how? Like, do you get it?
They're allowed to or would. But they could stop playing and still probably win this tournament. I mean, that is mad.
I mean, you could say probably they would. I mean, with all due respect, like 86 points after 4 games is
I can't believe you're that dense. I'm gonna go pee. Be right back.
CLG, though, I think we have to talk about the rest of the pack right, though, as well, to give them the due. CLG up in second, C9 just behind them, 100 Thieves jumping up a place as well into fourth. BBG, like you mentioned, pretty good performance from them today in 27. But one thing we should also remind ourselves with the leaderboards, you know, that point total, even though it is crazy dominant, you know, you don't kind of get that reflection. It's a set amount of points for the places that you do get. So even though ESA are dominating the lobby, if you switch one position in that chasing pack, that can be a big impact on how the points stack up towards the end of the Pro League split. So a lot to play for still for all of the other teams who are chasing, but at the moment ESA look like they've just got points in the bag.
Yeah, that's right. They've already set a record for the most single point game scored with 30 points last game, on par to set a record for the most points in a Pro League series or in an ALGS online tournament competition. Right now they have 86. If they get another 15, they're going to be over 110, which is, I'm pretty sure, a record at that point, close to the Sentinels pop-off Pro League that we saw in Split 1. I mean, it's just insane how they're playing. And, you know, this is the point in the tournament where typically the casters are like, does CLG have what it takes to bring this back?
We've got no stories. We've got no stories, everybody. Like, it's just, can ESA break records? That's our story for you right now. I think it's fair to say that probably is the most interesting
while I was peeing, I was thinking what to say to you, right? And listen, girls suck at telling you what they want, right? Girls will go like the furthest, like most roundabout way to telling you that they want to fuck you, right? You need to get better at this, man. Because that was probably the most obvious way a girl would ever tell you that she wants to have sex with you, and you fucking whiffed, bro. Like, you need to fucking start working on this shit, man. Because it can't get more obvious. The only more obvious thing that can get than that is if a girl walks up to you and tells you, let's have sex. That's literally the only way it gets more obvious. And even sometimes you'd be surprised. Some people would be like, they wouldn't like understand. I'm just baffled, yeah.
So far in the game, as we do look at the map overhead, just to see A, where the circle is going, but B, also where the teams are dropping. If you're just joining us, to give you that little bit of information, there's going to be an epicenter ending by the looks of things. C9 are going to be pretty happy with that. They play these circles incredibly well. No surprise to see that, of course, with them dropping over.
I can just imagine the situation, Francesca, where they're sitting with this girl and they're watching porn, and he's just like, oh yeah, dude, that guy's dick's big, dude. Yeah, nice porn.
They could put the circle back on Storm Point, and everybody else knew it was on Storm Point. And with ESA dropping on World's End, they'd still probably somehow put points on the board, John. That's how they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, if they
dude, that video was cool. Thank you for showing me.
Yeah, it's a very difficult rotation. I would just be mind blown. I think the rotation here for them is going to be the guys and through the caves all the way up to the east side of the map, continue to hug the east. So we'll see how they rotate. They do have Valkyrie for that rotate. Meanwhile, Cloud9 gets a northern zone. I know this handsome man named Monsoon is watching right now and smiling, happy to see a northern zone, and probably thinking, why the hell can't Complexion win this game, dropping on the northern side of the map. But Cloud9, well, they're the benefactor of that. They get a zone that pulls towards them. Meanwhile, LMK are
Francesca's dying. I'm sorry. But dead.
Yeah, BBG have had numerous fights off of dropping.
The angle of the camera in this scene was on point. Thank you so much for sharing this masterpiece with me.
But at the moment, they've got to work out how they want to play this one. They're kind of just making sure that they're sticking together, which is always a smart thing to do when you lose one player. See if you can pick one player out to try and even up the numbers a little bit. But at the moment, it's looking like a pretty difficult.
What were you, Francesca? What were you thinking in the moment? I really want to know, like, what was going through your mind. Like, what were you thinking?
That's decent damage from turns right here. So if I'm LMK and I want to take this fight,
dude, Kami, she was out there, panties, basically fucking soaked, and Francesca was like, dude, the ceiling's fucking white, bro. It's fucking sick.
But if I am this squad in LMK, I'm trying to avoid this fight. Not gonna happen though. Easier said than done. As Dimmy's two-thirds of the squad. Oh no, it's a third party. Another squad comes through.
Another squad comes through. I was about to say the same.
Yeah, dude. Shit's fucking white. Nice lighting.
It's a third party arriving happening, and all of a sudden, BBG might actually be able to survive this and get
Oh my
away.
God.
It's actually Scary who are coming through and trying to cause some problems. There's the knock, and there is BBG actually down, well, Wicked at least. This is an absolute war
Lightning.
going
You
down at the start of
actually
this map
talked
here on
about the light
Lava
with
Siphon, and to
Krzyzewska.
be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised with how long this is taking. John, for another
Oh man, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and I think
The
Scary
setting
was
was well. Like,
trees. That's a really fast rotate for them to get there. And
you were
again,
sitting there with this woman
who's in contention
showing
for a
you
top 5
porn,
finish. I mean, they've been playing really well.
expecting you. She was expecting from you to make the move, and you said you like the lighting of the setting. And she's over there sitting. She's over there thinking, what the fuck is this problem, man? The only thing she could have done to make you realize is literally to get naked.
Over at Lava Siphon, you can see that C9 are also in the vicinity. So is CLG. So an interesting
Denser than a black hole, bro. That is some. That is denser than some fucking cheesecake, bro. Holy shit.
Already gets my hair standing on end because you know that this man has the mechanical ability to
fuck, your pants are off?
make it look pretty flashy and create the opening that his team needs.
Jesus. Tiny.
It's just fine. Hey, at least it was a good story, Krzyzewska. At least it was a good. It made for a good fucking story. Dippy, I just faulted. You might have not got laid, but you made some memories. You know, you made some memories, and hopefully you learned something. You know, from now on, when a girl shows you porn on a date, like you're on a date and she starts showing you porn, you know, obviously all depends on the context. Like, if you're in the middle of a fucking public place, no, but like in a private place and she's showing you porn, then like, yeah, like, you know. Chat, take notes. Learn on his mistakes. That's the best thing you can do in life, is learn on someone else's mistakes.
Absolute menace. I mean, one team after another team, both on Stormpoint and World's Edge, probably the most aggressive team.
So like, if anything, Krzyzewska, you might have not got laid, but you educated chat on what not to do, and yourself.
Obviously, the Astral Esports squad that we saw in Pro League last season didn't really make a whole lot of noise, but had some kind of glimpses.
I'll be Alpha Male next time. I believe in your Sigma Male grind set. What did he do wrong? Nothing. He preserved his chastity. He stayed pure and say so. So absolutely nothing. He did nothing wrong. He watched the porn for the plot.
The carnage that will ensue, but you can see on the right hand side as well some of the damage done through our split one regular seasons. No surprise to see Mr. up at the top and with behind him, but I think when we get to the end of split 2, we might see some different names up there, possibly Skill Cakes.
Anyway, chat, sex is overrated.
Yeah, that is a great point. I think
it might have done nearly 40k damage already today, to be fair.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Let's just be honest. Let's tally it up.
The actual action of sex is like not even like, you know, it's not even that good. It's the foreplay before sex that's the gold, you know. That's the gold. And then when you get to the sex, it's just like done, you know. But the foreplay, that's what gets you going.
But you gotta say ESA is in the S tier alongside TSM, Sentinels, and normally I'd throw NRG in there, but you know, not performing really well today. I'd still have to throw them in that S tier.
Hey, NRG, all about the redemption arc. We've seen that in Split 1. You know, we saw a slow start for them, and then they came storming back. And you know, they just like to build the story. NRG, they're good friends.
What's happening here? We just had a educational story of what not to do on dates.
They managed to force CLG away into the dome building. That kind of separates the two sides of the northern side.
Also, like, personally, I feel like one night stands are fucking ass, bro. That's the worst sex you can have, in my opinion. I feel like sex is way better if you do it with someone like that you actually like care for, because I feel like when feelings are involved, it's just like makes everything better. Like, it gives you this fake dopamine in your head, that makes things better.
Constant nerfs, crypto buffs, and crypto back on display here in North America, which we saw a decent amount of.
If you're into night, one night stands is fine. Yeah, well, I'm just not into it. One night stands is good if you haven't got laid in like 5 years. Yeah, it's good for you, not for the girl, Goldie. Yeah, post-nut clarity is the biggest turnoff you can ever fucking experience. Post-nut clarity is like, it's like realizing what you just do and looking at the person you've been literally 2 minutes ago and looking at that person in disgust. It's like, who was I 2 minutes ago? What the fuck was that? What did I just do? Disgusting. Never again. Until you get horny again. But that's post-nut clarity.
Already finding themselves a spot to play. By the way, John, now you need to do a tier list. You need to start the stream. I want to see an Apex Legends team's tier list.
And post-nut clarity doesn't happen. It never happened to me in an actual relationship. It never happened to me. But, you know, it can most certainly happen in a one-night stand without a problem. Honestly, post-nut clarity can happen even after like just like you end up fucking masturbating and you're like, why the fuck did I do that? What the fuck is wrong with me? Why did I just do that? You know.
Yeah, Fury in a bit of a difficult spot here. This isn't a great place to play. It's kind of leaves yourself open to a lot of.
It's like as soon as the dopamine is out of your brain, you're disgusted with your own being.
After the damage being done, not just by the team NRG who are down on that low ground, but also a couple of teams just poking at them from distance.
I can jack off and look straight in your eyes. Yeah, well, Kami, you're a fucking non-functional human being. You are not. You do not live in a society. Being asexual is great. Honestly, I feel like life would be easier. Honestly, I feel like life would be easier. Like, no cap. Life would be so much easier. But, you know, personally, I'm not the type of person that can ignore the hormones. Like, when the hormones start hitting, it's like, it is what it is, you know?
Ambition probably thinking about, hey, can we get involved with this, or do we want to learn from the mistakes of the team surrounding us and just let it play out until we see a couple more knocks come in? As I say that, Sweet will be finished off, so Nathan and Rocker will have to play this one as a 2. Fury get back to a full 3-player complement. So
once I picked up a girl at a bar, here we go, the old man telling stories. We went back to her place. Afterwards, her 200 pounds dog joined us in bed. I was naked, and the next morning I walked out with her kids who were getting on the bus to school. It was so wild.
Maybe they do something we didn't know, but you're an epicenter, and you're in a northern zone finish. You know there's going to be at least 3-4 teams just on the outskirts of epicenter on high ground that are just ready to get damage in.
What, I feel like that actually fucking happened. Holy shit.
That's not necessarily the right fight to take. Fury, knowing they have a 3v2, decided to fight.
Motherfucker walked out holding hands with her kids, man.
Energy and Fury are changing places. You can see just spinning around each other. Fury trying to push them and just being out-rotated. It was almost a micro-rotation away. A little bit of change going down inside of epicenter, and nobody quite connecting as yet. As Team Liquid now looking to step up their game a little bit, make a push onto the team inside.
Are we watching ALGS or just listening to weird sexual stories? Man, someone has to make this shit fucking interesting.
Team Liquid dropping in Skyhook alongside 100 Thieves. Both made that northern rotation.
Yes, yeah, already won. What is there to watch?
Nearby, Gilderson's in his debut on this Team Liquid squad. If you're just joining, we've talked about that a lot. One of the marquee kind of bigger roster.
It's already fucking finished.
Player from Pittsburgh Knights, and Gilderson's joins Team Liquid, and here comes right behind them an RCO squad, Nando's, which we're just gonna wholeheartedly agree that is his gamer tag.
Playing Rage style and not been dying for it. I was too busy thinking about Dippy's fucking sex life and him adopting 2 kids in one night.
He's gonna have a little bit of time to maybe go and pick some up.
I feel like Dippy has like a really big thing for MILFs. He's always talking about mummies.
bombardment going to go in. It's going to hit as well.
Deppy is unironically that dude that goes, sorry, mommy, sorry, mommy.
With the numbers advantage, and with not with this 301, which is singing all the notes you want to hear, almost managed to get the kill. It was actually a Spitfire. Excuse me, I stand corrected. The Spitfire still manages to hit a pretty good tune. It's unfortunate they can't get the knock, but they certainly have created the space they require. Maybe
He's into mommy milkers. Nothing wrong. The moms need some love too, man.
In the chamber, so knocked on controller with the Spitfire in hand will be dangerous in late game. We'll keep a close eye on them. We'll keep tabs on them and check.
What we learned today is Kercheska is a handsome dude that's denser than a fucking piece of cheesecake, and Dippy's hunting MILFs in his free time.
They are getting better and better, and it is going to take them a little bit of time after a team change, as it is with any team, right? Just to get that little bit of cohesion down, work out how to work around each other in those fights, in those big moments in the end game. 100 Thieves getting better and better.
Oh, and ESCA won ALGS, I guess, but that's less important. I feel like. What is Kami? Kami is just a fucking feral animal in heat, bro.
When they come under a little bit of pressure, but for now they control all of this high ground. Anyone rotating in from the survey side is going to be taking shots. Anyone from epicenter is going to be taking shots, and you can see here Omnu getting so much information, but
Kami's throwing the phrase.
as well, burning through resources for the teams below.
Once I was having car sex and cops knocked on the car window. I threw my jeans on and rolled down the window. The cop went, license and sir, can you put your pants on? Looked down at my butt and just staring at the cop right in the face. The Dippy. I feel like Dippy's that one dude that's just addicted to sex. Like, he would fucking have sex anywhere, bro. Like, motherfucker would fucking... If there's sex on the fucking plate, he's taking it, dude.
So they managed to somehow or other get a res off and get the IGL back involved.
One of those guys that internally horny.
Let's take a second here. This is zone 4. We got a minute left. Look how small that next zone is going to be. There is not enough.
I wasn't always asexual, but my new meds killed all my sexual desire. But I'm so much happier now.
And that means unfortunately some people are going to have to be evacuated.
Are you happier though?
Squads remaining here. NRG are in a pretty good spot.
I don't know what to
do.
listen.
Cover here with the bin, but hey, look what happens. You go on Sweet's POV, and the man has a Kraber.
Like what? From being dead and watching his teammates to being alive with a Kraber. Only Sweet. As we take a look at the minimap here, I want to quickly explain what you see.
I personally don't like meds. Because meds, what they do is they fix something, but they break something else. Right? It's a fix something for a price of something else. Well, I personally believe you can fix something without breaking anything.
7 seconds is going to be madness, Mark. 19 squads, 18
Some of us don't have a choice. I mean, sure.
C9 are going to have to do some damage as well. You can see they're under pressure here. Abrolete knows they have to go
I'm not
forward,
saying
knows he
you do have a choice.
has to
I
get
just
the
said I
bubble down.
personally don't like it.
Be exposed, though. You can see there's just a little bit of a gap between the bottom of that bubble and the teams below, so they might be able to thread a few shots through, but the zone is now closing. 30 seconds until it does so. Now they have to make their move, and it looks like they don't want to leave anything to rest. C9 are going to be forced into a
getting
fight.
fucked.
You can see with 18 squads alive here, John, there's just no room to move without taking damage.
Why are you scared, Tom?
Fight a dangerous situation. Let's jump into this dangerous listen-in with Cloud9.
Oh, Kami's on your ass? Yeah, they're fucking dead.
Not even have to 2v3 this.
Wait, I think they left. I think they left.
Nah, I just got exploded.
With my ass.
Come here, come here. No, we were safe right here. I didn't know we were safe.
Swing us, bro.
And you said, see how they fare. They did not fare well. It's safe to say that was not a good situation for Cloud9. Obviously, really, really difficult scenario. 13 squads left. We talked about how crazy that zone would be. That pull from 18 to 13 already.
Energy's alive. Poke you. Another Kraber. Another whiff. Another Kraber. Double zoom. Hide. Another Kraber. Another whiff. Oh, блядь. Why is everyone whiffing with Kraber today?
A couple more opportunities to do so. Maybe these are just warning shots. Maybe it's just letting them know he has the Kraber. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, so to speak.
I'd literally die if he just drops.
My mom force-feeding me Ash to help me with my asthma. How is that going to help you with your fucking asthma? What?
Exactly. No, but yeah, definitely not what we're used to seeing here with the Kraber in Sweet's hands. A couple missed shots, but at the end of the day. Furia nearby.
Oh, you live in a primitive country and your grandma was a witch doctor, so you had no choice. Oh shit, so she almost fucking killed your ass. Kuro, what's up? I'm doing good, how are you?
NRG in a pretty good spot here, but they do have to traverse low to high. They're gonna play
I don't have asthma? You don't even have asthma? What the fuck? What the fuck is going on?
Pretty good access to the zone. They also have another Loba ult.
That's a fucking wild story, bro.
All of the resources they need, a couple of bats, couple of cells, whatever it might be. And to really disrupt all of these teams that are going to have to move to the north. One of those teams you can see here is Team Scary. Ganjaman is going to be on our screen. He's got a rampage.
Eat an egg on stream. Now! How about, no, dude. Yeah? How about you eat a fucking dick?
They can't quite do the damage that was required to make it a comfortable move, but Sweet is looking to just hard aim this corner, see if anyone is going to walk into his crosshairs. At the moment, Sweet doesn't have any options, or any targets, should I say.
Finally, baby. Oh no, Nathan. Oh yeah, Sweet.
They find themselves at least a few KP. The quick shield swap's gonna come through. Sweet has to go huge right now with the Peacekeeper.
Sweet has to chill a little bit for the boys. Yeah, baby. They stole that kill from them? Wait, Sweet's hitting juicers on this shit.
No, they're not. You can see that was a portal attempted third party coming in. 100 Thieves also in that kill feed, and NRG have gone from being in a horrible spot just a few minutes ago down to 2. Sweet revived, back in the game, Kraber in hand, and now being inside of
ABC, what the fuck are you talking about? Dude, nothing worse than hitting that Kraber shot and seeing 81, bro. I might as well fucking wingman headshot him, dude. Oh, finally, there we go. Oh, he went for the Imperial Hall shot.
But it's now going to be forced to back out, reset. Shield swap is not there, and Sweet is going to get taken out here momentarily.
Trying to use that knockdown shield, though, gets away for now, but that will be NRG out. 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves, 13 kills.
Problems and eliminating NRG. 3.
Not missing. ESCA winning another game.
Kings of the castle.
I mean, it's raps.
All alive. It's ESA.
What is happening right now? ESA is literally just having their way. They are on another. We talked about a tier list. God tier, then S tier. ESA in that God tier right now. Not even a question. 99 points. About to break the 100-point threshold. ESA, last squad remaining. Full-blown
ESA, it's in the game.
Deep breath, everybody. But if it goes anything like the score and like the form book has,
I mean, they're gonna win this, right? They have everything.
Champions in just a few moments' time. The team who can play spoiler though is
Oh, they have caustic, right?
They now make that move. The fight is
Yeah, I mean, they're just I mean, it's raps.
Too easy. ESA not missing a shot, and Mark, you called it perfectly. ESA is your champions. Fly across the screen. And they are now back-to-back-to-back wins here. Are you kidding me? This is an absolute display of perfection from ESA.
Well,
I think it's back-to-back-to-back-to-back for ESA. It has just been, I don't even know, I'm running out of superlatives to use right now. I could use some that would be, you know, maybe expletives, but I think they would be accurate for how they are playing at the moment. But I don't want to get fired, so I'm not going to do that. But ESA, I've just been absolutely insane. And how they get to these positions, I'll never know. But once they get there, you just never doubt them. They're just
alright, Chad, how about this?
Everything else happen around them. NRG,
we know ESCA won. It's 2 a.m. I might as well go to bed, right?
They forced their way into 4th place with some decent KP, but ESA, Esports
right.
Arena, Duplex, knocked and
Fair. It's 2 a.m. I'll go to bed and then stream tomorrow. Yeah? We had a good fun. We learned a lot of things today about sex and the anatomy of the human body, and that's great, and that's amazing. So let's raid Yuzu, and let's have a jolly old good time. Thank you guys for joining me, even at this weird ass fucking time. I am tired and I am old, therefore I say goodbye to you all. Please join the raid. Make sure you follow Yuzu. Let's do a spam. Let's do I don't know, spam have a good stream Yuzu. How about that one? Yeah, can you spam that? Aren't you like 26? I'm 25. Fuck you, man. Now it made me feel worse. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Probably gonna do some Apex rank tomorrow, and into a watch party. That's what I'm thinking. Mother, shut the fuck up. Alright, can you guys have a good stream music? What Tedium wrote here. Copy Tedium's message, everyone. It says 27 in the wiki. That's not true. Alright. Bye bye, chat. I'll see you guys tomorrow after I take my little 8-hour nap. Everyone join the raid right now. Alright. Bye bye. Bye bye. I look 20. I look 16. Alright, bye bye. Good night. Sleep well. Or good morning. But yeah, good night.